Hello and what's up, GSC Pokemon Challenges fam? How you guys doing? Welcome back for episode 11 of the Jasmine Minimum Battles series. We have reached this point already with 69 Pokemon successfully beating Jasmine, Chuck, and Pryce on Minimum Battles. They're ready to move on to Claire. An additional 15 Pokemon are still in the running with some OPTMs. Some of them did have to drop rare candies and things like that, but they are at least still alive at this point. And of course, the 18 channel members that are already completed have completely crushed this section. But today we're coming back with a bunch of new challengers. We are coming in with Seadra, which means we're getting Kingdra from Gen 2, Seaking, Starmie, Mr. Mime, Scyther, Steelix, Snubbull and Granbull, Qwilfish, and of course, since we've got the Scyther, we've got the Scizor. But we're actually going to be having a very buggy episode this time because we're going to be running all of the bug type member picks that are currently up there. We've got Forretrss, which there are actually 2 members supporting Forretrss, funny enough. I'll get into that story in a minute. Shuckle, Heracross, and of course, we've got Pinsir. And I have a belief that these Pokemon overall are going to be pretty darn good. We've seen Fury Cutter strats be kind of OP even in situations where you wouldn't expect it. So honestly, if I worried about any of the member picks, it's probably that Forretrss. We'll have to see how that one goes. Otherwise, about today's challengers, I think they're all going to be fairly straightforward to get through this section. I'm predicting no challengers fail in this one. That's just my prediction. Place your own down below. But we have just been finding more and more that it is possible to find strategies to get through Jasmine, Chuck, and Pryce. So while I'm a little worried about Snubbull, I just honestly think I'm going to be able to find something to get us through. But that could be just wishful thinking. Let's get into this and find out. And let's start off with Claire's ace, the Kingdra. Let's validate that the 8th gym leader could actually get through the first 7 gyms on Minimum Battles. And Kingdra is coming into this section with Surf, Smokescreen, Leer, and Swift. We will get Twister at level 29, giving us at least another same type move. I'm not sure if it's actually going to be worth anything. And then in this section, we can basically go for Icy Wind if we need it, though I don't see a situation where we will. And of course, Rain Dance to power up our Surf if we need some way to just get a little more power. But that's really it as far as like decent TMs that are going to help us out. Anything else would put us in that OP TMs category with Blizzard or Return or adding on Hidden Power. So I think we're just going to avoid those for now. But I think the best strategy for this Pokemon is actually to go take on Jasmine first. If we can manage to simply knock out the 2 Magnemites there, then we shouldn't really have too much trouble with Steelix with a water type Pokemon. At least that's my thinking. Let's see if it actually works out that way. And it turns out we didn't even go down to the lighthouse in the last episode. So we'll get maybe 1 more level before we actually get there to Jasmine. But with that done, let's just get to Jasmine. I didn't even try the randos inside of Chuck's gym. We'll worry about them later, but for now, I just want to see if I can get this first easy victory. Of course, Jasmine leads off with the Magnemite, and it all comes down to whether or not Surf one-shots here, and we do not get the one-hit KO. However, we are only neutrally affected by electric type moves, so we should be able to take a couple of hits here. And honestly, we could probably just set up something like Rain Dance in order to get a pretty easy victory. Here we do get confused and paralyzed, but we still manage to knock out both of the Magnemites, so we make it to Steelix, and of course it simply takes us down. But this one still might be possible at this current level. Still, before I make any moveset changes, I will at least go down to Chucky Boy's gym and let's just fight the randos in here and let's see how this goes, because maybe this is just a smoother path to victory. So up against the Black Belt Bros, I'm just going to go with Surf, even though, yes, they have higher special defense in this version of the game. It's just a 2-hit KO on Yoshi's first Hitmonlee. That brings out the second of the Black Belt Bros with the Hitmonchan. We can just stick with the Surf. And again, it looks like this is going to be a 2-hitter. It actually turns out to be a 3-hit KO on this one, but we get through nice and fine. We can just take on the other randos. Then we can make our way back to Jasmine. And here we even level up enough to learn Twister. So I'm just going to go ahead and learn that move over Leer for now. We'll keep Smokescreen because it could be useful in a really tight pinch. But for now, I think we may as well just try Chuck since we're down here. I mean, he does have a Poliwrath that's at least going to miss like 50% of the time with that dynamic punch, so we may be just fine there. And I think the Mint Berry will probably help us in this one, but let's see if that's actually the case. So Chucky Boy leads off with his Primeape. We're going to go Surf on this Pokemon, and this is going to be a 2-hit KO. Still no problems there. Now on the Poliwrath, all of its moves are basically inaccurate, so I think we give it a smokescreen here. It goes for the Mind Reader. And now the question is, what is the best move to use? We have higher attack, it has higher defense, but technically Surf is our strongest move even after resistance. So let's just see how much damage that does. We did 21 damage there with that move. Dynamic Punch hits, but that's probably okay. Let's just see what our other moves do here. Swift does about 20 damage. So I mean, everything seems to be doing pretty similar amounts of damage. We get knocked out on that one, but we may still be able to find a way through this. So round 2, we once again easily knock out the first Primeape. We once again go for a smokescreen on the Poliwrath. It misses the Dynamic Punch this time. Let's see what Twister does. And that did only 17 damage. So definitely doing less than Swift and Surf. So I reckon I'll just stick with Surf here. He's trying to do Hypnosis and missing. Then he misses a Dynamic Punch. We'll go back to Swift when we run out of PP. And we use the Mint Berry when he does finally land a Hypnosis. So we beat Chuck in just a couple attempts. It's really not that bad to get through him, because if he doesn't Mind Reader, you're going to be able to lower his accuracy and just take him down that way. But I gotta admit, we're having more trouble with Kingdra than I thought we would. I thought we would just come in here and kind of stunt on everything. No, it turns out that we're actually having a little bit of trouble with these gym leaders. There's an obvious solution for that. We can simply go to the Rocket Hideout and gain a few extra levels. But I do find it kind of disappointing that Kingdra is struggling this much to get through at this point. And sure enough, we make it to the final Rocket Executive here with no issues whatsoever. Against the Arbok, we can simply go Surf on this Pokemon. It's a 1-hit KO. That brings out the Gloom second. I'm going to switch into Swift here. It's going to take 2 hits, but Acid does not do that much. And Murkrow, we can go back to Surf as it's our strongest move, getting the easy 1-hitter there. And now I think it's a perfect time to go back to Jasmine. Then we'll take on Pryce. He does have neutrally effective damage against us at least, whereas on Jasmine I think we'll be able to one-shot the Magnemites at this point, and then the Steelix really doesn't have anything good for this Pokemon, so we should be able to get through that one much easier. But I think both of them are definitely winnable fights. It's just a question of how many resets they might take. So first things first, it's time for Jasmine round number 2 here. Let's see how she goes at this level. We're now at level 32 as we use Surf here. It is going to get the one-shot on the first Magnemite. Surf on the second Magnemite, also one-shots. So now we make it to the Steelix on full health. We can go Surf, and that is a 1-hit KO. So we get a very easy victory there against Jasmine, and now we can finally make our way on to Pryce, where I think honestly the most disappointing thing about this Pokemon is just its move pool. It just doesn't learn a wide variety of moves here. So I'm pretty sure Surf is our strongest move even against the Seal and the Dugong, just because of same type attack bonuses and everything coming into play. So we may be in a situation where we still just have to spam Surf, but let's see if that's actually the case. So Pryce attempt number 1, at least according to my math, Surf is still the stronger move. So I'm simply going to go for it, and that is nearly a 1-hitter on the Seal with a critical hit. I'll just Twister it down from there. That brings out the Dugong second, where we can just stick with Surf here. It looks like this might be a 4-hit KO, but Aurora Beam's only neutrally effective. It's not doing that much damage. The problem is that Dugong might rest here. Sure enough, it does. And in that case, I think what we do is we set up a bunch of smoke screens here. This way we can lower its accuracy when it does wake up, making it less likely to actually damage us. But that does also make me want to use different moves to damage this Pokemon, because I think we want to save some Surf PP for the final Piloswine. We get a nice Aurora Beam miss there, but then it hits and we go down. So we actually lose that attempt due to the neutral effectiveness of Ice. So let's try this whole thing again. Remember, we let off with a crit last time against the Seal. Without a crit, it is a 3-hit KO on this Pokemon, which isn't great. Now I'm going to go back into smokescreen spam on this Dugong, just trying to get it to miss as many times as possible, since we already know that we're not going to be able to get a very good range on it. And of course, if it's critical hitting and hitting us every single time, we're probably going to lose here. We get an attack drop even for this one, and then get knocked out on the next turn. So let's just see if Swift gets a better range. looks like it's doing a little bit more, but we'd probably need a critical hit here in order to knock out Dugong in 3 hits. Still, I reckon I'll just go for it because maybe we can manage the luck. Instead, it wakes up and uses Aurora Beam, so we actually get through that Pokemon just fine in that case. So it seems like Swift is actually the way to go. Then we'll go Surf on the final Piloswine, and that is a 1-hit KO as we get to level 34. But yeah, Kingdra doesn't get through as well as I kind of thought it would. I thought it was going to crush, but instead it was kind of meh in that whole section. We're gonna have to see how it does when it gets to the next gym. Since we do have a weakness against Dragon, we might actually be in bad shape against Claire. We'll just have to see how that works out, since she will have the stronger Dragon type move in Dragon Breath. We're gonna be stuck with only Twister, I think, at that point. That could be a small problem. Still, for now, we have managed to get through. Let's step down to our Seadra now, which is a pure water type. So in theory, should do a lot better here against Pryce. And we'll check in on the other water types as well with Qwilfish, Starmie, and Seaking. And Seadra's big difference is just that it's running Headbutt instead of Swift that we had on the Kingdra. Obviously, it's a little bit better move, but I still think we're going to struggle in this section. So I'm going to make my way over to the Lake of Rage and to the Rocket Hideout first in this one, since we are going to be a little bit weaker. And I'm going to take on Pryce first because we have the type resistance in this one rather than neutral damage. And Seadra makes quick work of the Rocket Hideout. It has higher special attack than attack, which synergizes nicely with the Surf here. So we can go Surf on the Arbok. Not quite getting a one-hitter here. We're at a lower level than we were previously with the Kingdra, of course. And now we can go into Headbutt on the Gloom. We are taking pretty decent damage from Absorb, so we kind of want to flinch here. Still, it only takes 4 hits even after a couple of Absorbs to take that one down. And as we get to level 30, we can go back to Surf on the Murkrow, getting the one-hitter, and just like that, the Executive goes down. And here, I think that the Headbutt strats are going to be significantly better against Pryce, given the fact that we'll be able to get some flinches while also resisting his moves. So Pryce attempt number 1 right here as he leads off with the Seal. I'm just going to start headbutting it, and this is going to be a 3-hit KO on this Pokemon. We get the speed drop, but I don't think it really matters. We're a pretty fast Pokemon. We're still faster than the Dugong here, and we can just start headbutting this Pokemon, hoping to get some flinches, ideally right here before it would use Rest. Unfortunately, it does manage to use the move still, but we'll just keep headbutting this Pokemon down. It wakes up and goes for Aurora Beam right there, and Aurora Beam again as we get an attack drop, but that's perfectly fine. We take that one out. Finally, we can go Surf on the Piloswine and get the 1-hit KO, getting us to level 31. So Pryce really isn't that much of an issue for a Seadra, thanks to the fact that we actually resist its moves. So this is one situation where you're actually a little bit worse off by evolving because of the fact that you would gain that neutral damage from ice rather than being resistant to it. Still, we've seen that you can get through Pryce even with Kingdra, so it makes me think that it's probably not that big of a deal, and Kingdra's probably going to be better in the long haul, but we'll just have to see. For now, we'll make our way down south. Well, let's go beat up on Jasmine, hopefully, and then take on Chuck, but we'll take on all the randos that are available at this point, just so that we can get as many levels as possible. So first up, we've got the Black Belt Bros, and here, as long as we're faster, we may as well just go Headbutt. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, but we can also get a flinch, which is why I think it's the better play. Still, we take 1 jump kick from that Hitmonlee. Now I used Surf on Hitmonchan, but it's perfectly fine. We'll just knock it out with Headbutt the next turn, and we can move on against the rest of the randos. And with all that done, let's just see how we do against Chucky Boy himself and his Poliwrath. I think the Mint Berry is the best way to go as far as held items here, and let's just see if it's enough. So of course, he's going to lead off with the Primeape. Let's just Surf on this Pokemon, getting an easy 1-hit KO there. Poliwrath comes out next. We go Headbutt. It doesn't do as much as I would have hoped. And honestly, we might be better off with Surf or Twister here. Surf seems to do about the same, and now Twister does significantly less. Of course, it is not a same type move for this Pokemon, so Surf seems to be the play, and he misses a dynamic punch, and we knock him out the next turn. So first attempt, Chuck goes down. We get to level 33 here, and now we can move on to Jasmine, who shouldn't be too hard in this one. But let's just verify that we actually one-shot against those Magnemites, and then try to get the victory. So Jasmine attempt number 1, let's go for Surf on the first Magnemite. That's an easy 1-hit KO. Surf on the second Magnemite, also one-shots. We didn't even heal coming into this, but we've made it to the Steelix. We can go Surf and that is a one-hit KO. So we get to level 34, and Jasmine never stood a chance there. So Seadra is at least going as far as its Gen 2 evolution is going, and it's gonna get its chance to maybe prove that it's better than Kingdra in the next gym. We'll just have to see if that actually works out though. For now, it is moving on in the game. Let's check in on Seaking and see how it does in this section. And Seaking comes in with Surf, Horn Attack, Peck, and Supersonic. And once again, it's just another one of these water types that has a really kind of shallow move pool. It doesn't learn anything that's super inspiring here. We'll get Fury Attack via level up, which we're probably not going to learn. And then Waterfall doesn't come in as a level up move until level 41. In Gen 1, that was this Pokemon's signature move. Now it's just an HM that anything can learn, which why would you learn it when you have Surf? And then unlike the last two Pokemon, you can't learn Headbutt. So you're just stuck with the Horn Attack for neutral damage, unless you want to go return strats here. I always felt in Gen 1 in particular that there were so many water types that the Seaking and Seadra lines were just completely afterthoughts. Like every other water type seemed to have something kind of going for it. You know, even the Golduck line, which I consider to be kind of meh overall as far as like Gen 1 water types, at least got access to things like Psychic and Confusion that they could use for coverage. And most other water types had some sort of coverage move that they could use. They were using things like Thunderbolt, or in the case of Gyarados, Fire Blast. Like you could get all kinds of moves on these other water types in the Gen 1 games. And Gen 2 really seems to have kind of continued that theme where most of the water types seem to get some sort of type coverage other than just water and normal. Whereas here with this Seaking, you're either using Hidden Power to get coverage or it's Peck. Like that's it. Those are the only moves that you really get outside of normal water and ice type moves, which may prove to be an issue at some point. We're just going to have to see. For now, I'm going to make my way to the Rocket Hideout. I think this is the best way to progress with this Pokemon. And let's just see if it's strong enough to actually get through this section. We are more of a physical attacker than a special attacker, which puts us kind of at a disadvantage since we'd really like to lean on Surf most of the time. But we'll just have to see how this section actually goes. Still, we get to the end of the Rocket Hideout without too much difficulty with this Pokemon, though we aren't like one-shotting things as much with Surf here. So against the first Arbok, Surf is the best play, but it's going to very clearly be a two-hit KO on that Pokemon. Out next comes the Gloom, and this is the one spot where we do kind of have a gimmick. We can go Peck here, and we get a critical hit one-shot. Nice. It would have been a two-hitter outside of that. And now I think that our best play is just to stick with physical moves here against the Murkrow. I'm honestly not sure. I guess I'll go Surf since it is boosted and it is higher base power, but it's not a situation where I'm as confident that we're going to one-shot against that Pokemon. Still, we managed to get through just fine, it turns out, and we can now make our way over to Pryce, where we're going to be using physical moves against the first two Pokemon at least. So I think Horn Attack will be enough to get us through there, and we'll just have to see how we do when we actually get to that Piloswine, where obviously Surf is going to be the play, but we'll just see if it's enough to one-shot like it has been previously or not. So Pryce is going to lead off with his Seal as usual. We'll just Horn Attack against this Pokemon. It's going to be a two-hit KO. Still, that one goes down nice and easy. That brings out the Dugong. This looks like it might be a three-hitter with Horn Attack, but actually it's going to be a four-hitter as it goes for rest. Here, let's just keep using Horn Attack, though it will probably go Aurora Beam when it wakes up. In fact, it goes Headbutt, but that's just fine. We knocked that Pokemon out. Now Surf on the Piloswine is still a one-hit KO with a crit. So we get to level 31 as we get through that Pokemon, but I'm not sure how much of that was just because of the critical hit. I don't think it was going to do massive amounts of damage to us. It was probably just going to go for Fury Attack, and we'd probably just two-hit KO it in a healing loop, but hey, we avoided that altogether with that critical hit. So we get one gym down. Let's now make our way down south, where we've got to take on those Black Belt bros, and Jasmine will just take on Chuck for good measure while we're down in Cyanwood. Since he's probably not that bad, he'd probably just bunts like usual, but let's find out. So let's take on the Black Belt bros here and just see how they actually go with this Pokemon. I'm going to lead off with Horn Attack here. It's going to be a two-hit KO, and Hitmonlee misses the jump kick, so we get the easy victory, even without healing. That brings out the Hitmonchan next, against whom we'll just stick with the Horn Attack. Looks like a three-hitter as it goes Comet Punch a couple times, but but that's perfectly fine as we get the first attempt victory. And with that, we'll just make our way through the rest of the randos in here and on to Chucky Boy. So Chuck, attempt number 1 here on the Primeape. Let's just go straight for the Surf on this Pokemon. This is going to be a 2-hit KO. Still, that is the strongest move, so it definitely makes sense. And now we get to the Poliwrath, where Peck is technically super effective here. So let's see how much damage it does. That did 28 damage, meaning this would be a 4-hit KO, and we get hit by Dynamic Punch. Still, I'm going to try to confuse this Pokemon, but unfortunately we miss every Supersonic and it lands Dynamic Punch, so we lose. Still, I think we have a chance to get through this one. We just need slightly better luck than that. Next attempt, of course, we're back to Poliwrath, but I am going to try to confuse it this time. We finally land the Supersonic. It hits the Dynamic Punch, so we're both confused. Here we managed to hit a critical hit Peck though, taking it down to about half HP remaining, and then we reconfuse the Poliwrath after it snaps out of confusion. We'll Peck it again, and if we just manage one more hit, sure enough, it just hits itself in confusion, and we get to level 33 as we knock Chuck out on the second attempt. So it's not great by any means, but we do manage to get through there thanks to a little bit of confusion strats. I actually think that's the best way to go, just because he is kind of 50-50 to hit you with Dynamic Punch there, and it feels like you're kind of looking for a lot of luck if you don't go for the confusion on him just to break up the chances of him landing that. Still, who knows, it might be better to just go all in on attack on that one, but it's very clear that you're only really going to get an advantage, I think, by adding on something like Max Power Return there and dealing significantly more damage that way, since nothing else is really that good. Still, we've managed to make it to Jasmine now. We're just going to have to see if Surf is enough here, or do we have to think about going for some sort of Rain Dance strat with the Surf? As long as we're one-shotting the 2 Magnemites though, this should be a pretty easy fight. So Jasmine attempt number 1 here. Let's go Surf on the first Magnemite. That's an easy 1-hit KO. Magnemite number 2, we go Surf once again, getting the KO. That brings us to Steelix on less than half health because we didn't heal, but we just get a 1-hit KO with Surf there as well. So level 34 comes in, and that's another Pokemon that we didn't even have to try against Jasmine. We get a very easy victory, but that's kind of the story of generic water types when they get to that gym. As long as they get there at a decent enough level, Surf is just kind of OP against Jasmine. Still, with that done, let's check now on our other 2 water types. We've got Starmie and we've got Qwilfish. I'm going to go for the Qwilfish first because I think that one's going to be kind of interesting. So now with Qwilfish, I actually didn't save here before this one, so I actually had to go back through and redo this whole section, but we managed to get through Morty just fine. We actually went to the lighthouse previously, so we were 1 level higher than this, but I'll get that out of the way as we go through this section. I think our best play is to go down to Chucky Boy though, because we resist fighting type moves as a poison type, and that may be all that we actually need to get a pretty easy victory down there. So let's just see how this actually goes. We are more of a physical attacker than a special attacker, which does mean Sludge Bomb is a possibility here. So with that being said, I might actually want to go over to the Rocket Hideout first so that I can get access to that same type move. That might actually be pretty strong here, given that we are more of a physical attacker than a special attacker. That's going to be one of our strongest same type moves. So I've talked myself into it. Let's go beat up on some rockets and get access to that right now. And I'll actually hold off on learning the move Surf because I'm not sure if I actually need it. Rollout might be more useful, at least until we get to Jasmine. Still, we actually run into a little bit of a wall on Jed right here. So I'm going to take this opportunity to simply forget Headbutt to learn Surf. Since Headbutt is a replaceable move, there will be a move deleter fairly soon anyway, and it will at least give us, I think, decent coverage against most things. We're not going to have quite as good a move set against Chuck, but again, we've got that type resistance, so that might be all that we actually need, because if you try to go really anything other than that here against Jed, it seems like it doesn't quite work out. Of course, this one I actually build up all of the rollouts though and get the victory, so I mean, it is what it is. The second I put on Surf, I don't even actually use it, but we're going to need the same move when we get to Jasmine. Otherwise, I just don't see any way we're going to get through with anything else. And here we could learn the move Pin Missile via level up, but I'm going to skip this move. Like, I know it would help us a lot against psychic types, but but I think by the time we get to Willy Boy, we're really going to be much more YOLO there, hoping to either build up a bunch of rollouts and knock him out, or hoping to use the minimize strategies to get through. I think those are the only possible ways to get through that fight. That's looking an awful long way ahead, but that's the only situation I can really think of where I would be like, Pin Missile is probably stronger than the rest of my moves, but even then I just don't expect it to be that good. Again, tell me if you think that is a mistake in the comments section down below, but for now I'll just make my way to the end of this rocket section where we hopefully get some nice easy victories and we can make our way over to Pryce. And so we do finally make it to the final rocket executive. It hasn't been nearly as smooth as the last 3 Pokemon, so it's not necessarily great with Qwilfish, but we are getting here. We can just go for the rollout on this first Arbok and build it up. That's a 3-hitter. Out next comes the Gloom, but it's all built up with the rollout and we just one-shot with a crit, and Murkrow gets completely wrecked, so we get through with no damage taken on that final fight. And I think that's going to be the strategy for Pryce himself. Let's see how it actually works out though. So Pryce attempt number 1, let's just start building up the rollout here. It looks like it's a 3-hitter on the seal. That brings out the Dugong next, which gets completely destroyed. That brings us to level 30 as the Piloswine comes out, and it also can't stand up to the rollout. So we get the very easy victory against Chuck on the very first attempt. And now it's time to make our way down towards Chuck and Jasmine, but I'm going to get access to the Sludge Bomb TM first just in case we need it. And I could think of a couple of ways to go. We could forget Harden in order to learn this move, especially since Defense Curl is a TM on the moveset. So if we ever did want a defense boosting move later on in the run, we could get that, or we could forget Minimize in order to learn it. I think I'd probably tend towards forgetting Hardened here though, but still Hardened strats might be enough to simply get us through Chuck by allowing us to boost up our defense a bunch and reduce the amount of damage that he can do against us. Still, let's just get into Chucky Boy's gym one time and see how this actually goes, starting with the Black Belt Bros. Against the Hitmonlee, I don't think we really have too much to worry about. I think we just spam Surf here. Even though we have lower special attack, we just don't take that much damage from the double kicks and jump kicks. So it's just an easy 3-hit KO on that Pokemon. Out next comes the Hitmonchan, where we'll just go with the same strategy, where once again we expect Surf to get the 3-hitter. It goes Ice Punch turn 1, good job, and Ice Punch turn 2. Like, you have Thunder Punch on your moveset. Hitmonchan doesn't even want to use it against our Qwilfish. I mean, punching a Qwilfish sounds like a bad decision in general, but you know, Pokemon logic. It just works. Anyway, we should be able to get through the rest of these randos just fine, so let's make our way on to Chucky Boy. And now as we get to Chuck, I think the best play here might just be to set up a bunch of Harden and Minimize on the first Pokemon and then just try to take him down with a bunch of rollouts. But let's see if that actually works. On the Primeape, I'm just going to start setting up Harden here. He goes for Leer, which is perfectly fine. Karate Chop, when it doesn't get a critical hit, didn't do that much either. And now I'm just going to minimize a bunch of times. He doesn't know Stomp, so we don't have anything to fear there. And we're really just trying to reduce the amount of damage that we take. Since we've got this move, we may as well use it. And with that all set up, let's just set up the rest of the Hardens too. I think that's going to force the final Poliwrath to go for things like Surf against us. And now let's just see if we can manage to roll out enough and build up enough damage to actually do something here. It takes 4 hits to knock out the Primeape, but it does go down. Poliwrath comes out next and takes massive damage. It misses the Mind Reader, and then we just go Surf to knock that Pokemon out. So we get through on the first attempt, getting to level 33. Chuck, he can pick up boulders and throw them across the room, but he apparently cannot find a Qwilfish that has already minimized itself down to the size of a pixel. But now with that done, we only have Jasmine left in this section. Let's see if Surf turns out to be enough to simply destroy her. And if it is, then we can simply move on in the game towards Claire, which we'll have to see how it goes with Qwilfish. But I think we'll get through the rocket section just fine since they have so many poison types. It's kind of good to be a water poison Pokemon. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's just try Jasmine and see if we can one-shot against those Magnemites with Surf or not. So Jasmine attempt number 1, we go for the Surf on Magnemite number 1, getting the 1-hit KO, so that's perfectly fine. Magnemite number 2 also gets wrecked, and that brings out the Steelix. We go Surf, and that is not a 1-hitter. We get a Sunny Day, and now a Hyper Potion. We're obviously just going to stick with Surf here. It's going to be a 3-hitter at this point, but Iron Tail, even with a crit, didn't do enough, and we managed to win on the first attempt, getting to level 34. So once again, it really wasn't that bad to get through Jasmine. And with that one done, there's only one last water type to get to in this episode. Let's check in on our Starmie. And Starmie comes in with Surf, Swift, Recover, and Bubble Beam as its moveset at this point. And while we actually have a lot of moves that we could learn here, because we could learn Blizzard, we could learn Thunder, we're definitely not going to reach Confuse Ray in this section. And there aren't really any moves that are non-OP TMs that we can learn in this section to power this Pokemon up, other than Rain Dance strats. So we'll see if that's necessary or not. But for now, I'm just going to try to get through with the moveset that I currently have. And I'm going to go to the Rocket Hideout first in order to try to just gain as many levels as possible, because we are in that slow level up group, so we're not going to be at as high a level as these other water types that we've been running so far. We make up for that by having overall pretty decent balanced stats with a lot of speed, so let's just see if that's enough. And sure enough, we make it to the final executive in the Rocket Hideout with no issues with Starmie. I think we're going to just destroy this fight pretty easily, but let's see how it actually goes. Against the Arbok, we have to go for Surf. It's our best move, and it's still a 2-hitter as we take a bite. That's going to bring out the Murkrow second. Funny enough, I thought it would be the Gloom, but Murkrow simply goes down in a single Surf. Now for the Gloom, its defensive stats are even, and we have a same type attack bonus in Surf, so I do think this is the strongest play here. Still, it looks like this is going to be a 3 or 4 hit KO after the Absorbs, but it didn't do enough damage, so we get through just fine on the first attempt, and we're ready to move on now to Pryce. Now, I don't think we're going to do great against Pryce in terms of damage output, but what I do think we have on him is the fact that we can simply heal in battle just like he does with his Dugong and Seal, because we have access to Recover, and as long as we're able to use that, I think we're going to be just fine here. Still, it might be a situation where we need to go Rain Dance strats. We'll see if that's the case or not. If we do, of course, we could just forget Bubble Beam since it's not really necessary when we already know Surf. I think we'd just prefer to stick with the stronger move. Still, let's see how it actually goes right here in this first attempt against Pryce. He's going to lead off with the Seal, where we'll simply go Surf on this Pokemon. We do well over half with a critical hit. He misses the Icy Wind, and we knock that one out in 2 hits. That brings out the Dugong next. We'll simply go Surf right here. Another critical hit does decent damage as we take a Headbutt, but it looks like this might take 2 more hits to knock it out from there. It's going to have time to rest. I reckon we'll just use this chance to recover and then go back into our Surf spam here, hoping to knock this Pokemon out. When it wakes up, it will go Headbutt, but it's not faster, so it can't flinch at least. And we managed to knock that Pokemon out eventually. That brings out the final Piloswine. We can go for Surf, and that is a 1-hit KO. So we get through, getting to level 29, even on the slow level up group. So without any decent moves against the first 2 Pokemon, we still managed to get through there on the first attempt with no major issues. And now we have type advantages on both Chuck and Pryce. Because we're a Psychic type, we don't really care about the Fighting type moves as much, and because we're a Water type, we don't really care about the Steel type moves as much. So in both cases, I think we're going to do pretty well, but let's just see. We'll start off by going up against the Black Belt Bros just to see how they actually work out here. With the Hitmonlee, we'll simply go Surf, and this is going to be a 2-hit KO. Jump Kick doesn't do that much, so we managed to get through just fine. Now let's see how we do against the Hitmonchan. If it just goes for something like Comet Punch, we might take decent damage. In fact, it goes Thunder Punch, but that was kind of laughable as we just knock it out in 2 hits as well. And we should now get through the rest of these randos with no issues as we make our way over to Chucky Boy. And just like that, we make our way to Chuck. He's going to toss a boulder because he's so angry that he doesn't have anything good against a Starmie. But let's see if we actually get the first attempt victory. First up on on the Primeape, let's just go Surf on this Pokemon, and that does not quite get a one-hitter, but it's going to be a two-hitter. We'll just Bubble Beam it down from there. Poliwrath comes out next. I'm going to stick with Surf. I think it's the strongest move. It looks like this is going to be a 4-hit KO. We wake up from the first Hypnosis with the Mint Berry. He manages to land another Hypnosis, and we're really hoping to wake up here. He landed one Dynamic Punch, lands another one as we wake up, but now we hit the Surf, and if we can just hit one more, I think we get the victory. Sure enough, we do. So he goes down on the first attempt, even after putting us to sleep, even after landing Dynamic Punch. It's not enough for him to take down a Starmie. Turns out that Misty in Gen 1 probably is better than Chucky Boy. So here we can just deliver the secret potion to Jasmine, and it's time to make our way to her gym, where I think Surf is going to be more than enough here. But let's just double check that we actually one-shot against those Magnemites, since we are coming in at a lower level than some of our other challengers. Here we're only at level 30, which is the same as the Magnemite in front of us. We go for Surf, and fortunately that is a one-hitter as we get to level 31. Second Magnemite is also going to get wrecked, and that brings out the Steelix, where we can go for Surf, and this is a one-hit KO. So very easy victory there against Jasmine. We got through with really no issues with this Starmie, and this Pokemon should be pretty decent in the next section. When we get to Claire's gym, I think I've mentioned this before, but we're reaching the point where you could actually legitimately pay for one of the Game Corner TMs, which means that if we get desperate there, we could just go for the Blizzard strats. Though Icy Wind is a legal move that we wouldn't even need to go that far for, and that could turn out to be enough. We'll just have to see how much damage it actually does against the Dragonairs, but that's basically my plan in my head. We'll replace Bubble Beam with something like Icy Wind first to see if it's enough to get us through that gym. Still, we'll check in on that next time. For now, let's just see how we've done with our progress so far in this episode. So checking in on the results so far, honestly 5 of 5, but it wasn't quite as easy with some of the Pokemon as I thought it was going to be. I was a little overconfident with that Kingdra, which it turns out is not quite as good as I had expected it to be. Still, all of these water types got through, which is what I expected when I started this episode. So it's nice to see that in general, yeah, that water type has just been kind of OP in this section. I mean, the only water type that has even struggled at all is Lantern, but that's just because its moveset was so terrible in previous sections. But now with that done, let's check in on Mr. Mime before we get into our bugs and steel types. And Mr. Mime might be really interesting here. I think it learns elemental punches, and if it does, it's probably going to be fine, but let's find out. And sure enough, we do. We're coming in knowing Confusion, Barrier, Substitute, and Fire Punch. But of course, we can get Thunder Punch when we need it. We can learn Ice Punch if we really wanted to. But given that we already have Confusion and Fire Punch, I think the best play is to go to Chuck first and then Jasmine. And then we'll worry about what to do against Pryce and the Rocket Hideout. But at least their Confusion will be neutrally effective, so I think it might be enough. We'll see if that actually works though. Now it turns out we did not even do the Lighthouse section previously with this Pokemon, so we're even going to be able to gain at least like one more level before we even have to go down to Chuck's gym, but I think Chuck's gym's not going to be too bad. We'll just see if that's the case though, starting with the Black Belt Bros. So first up, we've got Yoshi and his Hitmonlee. We can just go ahead and go for Confusion here. It's going to be a 2-hit KO. Double Kick doesn't do that much. And we get the nice easy victory. That will bring out the Hitmonchan next, which doesn't have anything great either. I think Comet Punch is the best that it can do. It goes Thunder Punch instead and allows us to get the very easy victory. And we can move on to the rest of the randos, where we'll just gather up another level or two before we take on Chuck himself. So we come to Chucky Boy at level 29 here, 2 levels higher than his first Primeape, and this is going to be a 2-hit KO as he just goes Leer. Out next comes the Poliwrath, which is 1 level higher than us, but we can just go Confusion here. A critical hit, nearly one-shot, and then it misses the Hypnosis and we knock it out after that. So Chuck goes down nice and easy, just punts on that fight, kind of typical Chuck things to do, and we can now move on in the game, where I think the next play is to go back to Jasmine. Let's see if that Fire Punch is enough at this point. If it's not, then we'll go to the Rocket Hideout to gain more levels, but I think this is just the most efficient way to go. Plus, we kind of like that badge boost in defense if we can manage it, since defense is one of our weaker stats here. So let's just test Jasmine out here. She's going to lead off with the first of her Magnemites. I'm going to go for Fire Punch right here. That gets the one-hit KO as we get to level 30. Magnemite number 2 comes out and gets completely destroyed. And that brings out Steelix. We can go Fire Punch, doing over half. It goes for the Iron Tail, doing massive damage, but we knock it out the next turn, and there was nothing she could do to stop us. Even if she healed, she was just going to get knocked out in 2 turns. She obviously can't go for anything else since we're faster, so we just get a nice, easy victory. And with that, it's time to just go beat up on a bunch of rockets, hopefully gain a few easy levels, and then we'll make our way over to Pryce, where Fire Punch is super effective against Piloswine. Confusion is neutrally effective against the other 2 Pokemon, so this might be enough. If we do struggle though, we might switch out Fire Punch for Thunder Punch, just on the basis that it's super effective against the first 2 Pokemon, and that could help us if we're in a little bit of a pinch. But now at level 31, we could learn the move Encore, which could be decent if we had a situation where an opponent is just using a kind of dumb move. But I'm thinking that Barrier and Substitute make more sense for this Pokemon, basically giving us defensive resources to survive against some of our toughest opponents. So currently I'm thinking I'm going to skip this move. Tell me if you think that's a mistake down below, because I could see situations where Encore might actually be useful, but I just don't see anywhere it's going to be like immediately useful and I want to use it right away. But we may need to do an Encore run at some point in order to just see how many situations we can exploit with Encore strats plus some really weak damaging move in order to try to get through the game. That could be kind of hilarious and funny, but for now I'm going to skip that as we do this minimum battles series. Like, I'm trying to think of exact situations where I would want to Encore something. Obviously, if something leads off with a status move, you could use Encore to just force them to keep using it. If you've got like Lance's Gyarados, I guess you could force it to just keep using Rain Dance. But those are the only situations that I can really think of. But again, tell me in the comments if there's something that I'm not thinking about that is an exploitative strategy with that move, because I could imagine that there are some spots where you might be able to get a free victory by simply using that in the right situation. Still, with that being done, we get through the rest of the Rocket Hideout with no issues whatsoever, and I think we've got all the moves that we need here. Against the Arbok, we can simply go Confusion and get a one-hit KO. Murkrow comes out second. I'll go Fire Punch right here, and this is going to be an easy 2-hitter as we knock that Pokemon out, and that brings out the Gloom, where Fire Punch, Confusion, they're basically the same thing. I just go Confusion and one-shot there, and we get the super easy victory in that battle. And with that done, it's time to just make our way to Pryce and see if we can finish this section out nice and strong. And then in the next section, we may be looking for that Ice Punch strategy against Claire, which, provided we get there, shouldn't be too bad, but we'll just have to see how it goes. I kind of imagine this Mr. Mime running a very similar strategy to what I was doing with the Mewtwo in the previous Bright Powder run. Obviously, it's just a weaker Pokemon with lower stats, but in theory, it should be able to pull off most of the same strategies. But before all that, let's get to Pryce. He's going to lead off with the Seal, where we're just going to go for the Confusion here. He goes Icy Wind and lowers our speed, but that's not really a big issue. I'm going to Substitute right here. As he just goes Aurora Beam, we'll just let that take the damage for us. Confusion with a critical hit does about half to that Pokemon, and it should just be 2 more hits to knock this one out. That brings out the Piloswine at the end. We can go for the Fire Punch. It's going to be a 2-hitter as he just misses a Blizzard. He uses the Hyper Potion, but it doesn't matter. We get the easy victory on the first attempt, getting to level 34. So that is another Pokemon getting through nice and easy, and we are ready to move on in the game with our Mr. Mime. And with Mr. Mime getting through, we're up to 75 Pokemon legitimately passing this section. So again, I think we're probably going to hit 100 by the time we're done. We'll see if that actually works out, but I'm pretty confident we're going to get there. And this section's proving not to be quite as difficult as I think a lot of people would have expected it to be. Still, it is only the 7th gym. We still have the 8th gym and the Elite Four, where I think things are going to ramp up a lot in this challenge. So we shouldn't get too overconfident with all those past Pokemon just yet, but it is just really interesting to see how many are actually up there and how many Pokemon you honestly wouldn't expect to get to this point in the game on minimum battles. But back to today's action. Before we get into all of the bug Pokemon, I actually want to do Steelix first and kind of compare it up to that Scizor, since in theory at least, we might be in a kind of tough spot, especially with Steelix. We're going to be neutrally affected by ice, and we're going to be weak against fighting. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that Pokemon does. So I'm going to do Steelix, then Scizor, then we'll go back to Scyther and get all of our bug type member picks out of the way. So here with our Steelix, we're coming in with Tackle, Screech, Dig, and Rollout on our moveset. Obviously, we've got Dig as the same type move. Rollout seems to work pretty well in a lot of situations. Tackle might have to go at some point. Dig strats might be enough to get us through Jasmine just fine, so that may be the way we want to go first. But before all of that, I think we make our way over to the Rocket Hideout to gain as many levels as possible here, because I'm not super confident in this Pokemon, especially when we get to Chuck's gym. It's not necessarily Chuck that I'm worried about as much as just the other trainers in his gym might be kind of a wall. Now, with that being said, we did manage to get through this section previously without actually going down to Olivine, so we will at least gain another level or two down here, but then we're going to have to see how this actually works out with this Pokemon. Now, via level up, we do get to learn Rage. I'm going to learn it over Tackle for now, since I think it's going to be better than that move. Still, it's not that exciting at this point. It was a much stronger move earlier in the game, but now Rage is kind of starting to drop off. Still, it could be a strategy in a tough spot, so we'll just keep our eye on that as we move on. Still, the only real reason that I came down here to Olivine was just to get access to the Good Rod so that I could get a Surf Pokemon. And with that mission accomplished, I'm going to make my way back up to the Rocket Hideout at this point, since I know that that is going to be the more efficient way to route. And sure enough, Steelix gets through this whole Rocket Hideout just fine. There's a bunch of resets. That's just because this is the only ROM that I don't have set up so that spinners never look at me. So I actually have to dodge them, which is why I get a lot more resets. Still, as we get to this final Rocket Executive, we don't need to dodge anything here. Let's just go for the rollout strat, since it's going to be pretty good against the team overall. Bite is pretty decent for flinching me here, but we do manage to knock that one out eventually. Against Gloom, we miss the rollout, which is very bad luck, since that's going to allow it to use Absorb a bunch of times, and we might actually lose this fight. Are you kidding me? Granted, I didn't come in healed, so that was a little bit of a mistake. Still, let's try this one again more properly. So attempt number 2, maybe we're better off just going for Rage, since we'll at least build up the power even if we miss. Here, we're going to get a 2-hitter on the Gloom. It looks like we're at higher health here. It is putting us to sleep and absorbing us, but we do manage to wake up and knock that one out. And now against the Murkrow, we just one-shot with the Rage. So Rage does get you through that just fine, even though you're slower. It's probably better than Rollout because of the fact that you don't get stopped from building it up with a flinch, which I think is a pretty good strategy in general against this Steelix, is just to flinch it because it's so slow. Still, with that being done, we're going to have to see if we can manage to make our way through Pryce here. I'm kind of nervous, but he doesn't know any water type moves, and that's a pretty big advantage for us. He's at least just dealing neutral damage here, so we might have a decent chance of actually getting through. So Pryce attempt number 1 right here. Let's go for the rollout spam here. He goes Icy Wind to lower our speed, but Seal's still going to be a 3-hit KO from the looks of things. It's a 4-hitter after he goes for Rest, but then on the Dugong, it just goes Aurora Beam here, and we miss the rollout. Otherwise, I think we win against that Pokemon. So clearly just a little bit of bad luck. Let's try this one again. Next attempt, we once again get Icy Wind, but we manage the 3-hitter on the Seal. Dugong comes out, and we manage to Quick Claw and one-shot against that Pokemon. That brings out the Piloswine. We miss here against the Piloswine, and it goes for the Fury attack. Still, I think that Rollout is our best play. It misses Blizzard a couple times, and once it misses enough of these, we are going to get the victory. Sure enough, it takes 2 attempts to get through Pryce, but not that bad to get to level 31 there, and we can move on in the game. Now I think we go to Jasmine, since at least against her Magnemites, we've got Dig, which is super effective. Dig is going to be super effective against her Steelix, and it's going to just basically be a mirror match there to see who can knock out the other's Steelix faster. Still, I am just kind of interested to see how we do against the randos in Chuck's gym, given the fact that we do have a massive defense stat already. Maybe we can survive against the Hitmonlee. I'm honestly not sure, but I want to test it out. So here against this Hitmonlee, I'm going to go for Dig. Jump Kick did about a quarter here, but then a critical hit Dig one-shots against the Hitmonlee, so that's perfectly fine. Let's see how we do against the Hitmonchan next. It goes Comet Punch, which does 1 damage per hit. We Dig, doing about half. Then Fire Punch did decent damage, but not enough given that Hitmonchan has no special attack, and we just get the 2-hitter there as well. So really not too bad to get through that Pokemon. We're going to have to see how we do against the next Black Belt with his Seismic Tosses, though. That might actually be harder. We'll just have to see. Sure enough, we get through all the randos there at least, but I'm going to now go back and try my hand at Jasmine, and let's just see how she actually goes. So Jasmine attempt number 1, she leads off with the Magnemite. We go Dig on the first one. That's going to be an easy 1-hit KO. Steelix comes out next, and it is 3 levels higher than us, but we're faster because we have the badge boost in speed plus the max DVs. It's kind of interesting to see how our stats match up. The only stats it has that is higher than ours, in spite of its higher level, is its defense. And that's the only stat we don't have a badge boost in. Maybe our special defense as well, given the fact that that's probably not correct. Every other stat is higher on our Steelix compared to hers, in spite of the fact that we're 3 levels lower, which is why max DVs is kind of OP. So here I'm going to go for Screech first, as it goes Iron Tail on me, and I'm just going to Screech as many times as I can, and then switch into Dig here. Once we manage to Dig, we get a 1-hit KO after getting it on -6 defense, and that brings out the final Magnemite, which never stood a chance here. Dig completely destroys it. So it turns out that you can beat Jasmine with her own ace 3 levels lower. You just have to learn Dig. If you were smart enough to learn a same type ground move, she'd actually be a lot tougher than she turns out to be in a normal run. But now we have no choice. We have to go take on Chucky Boy, and this is where I'm really nervous. Maybe we can build up enough rage or something in order to get through here, but I'm not feeling super confident as we go into this fight. So I'm going to have to double check the speeds. I'm going to go in initially with the Quick Claw, hoping that maybe it can activate and give me a chance, but let's find out if it's possible or not. So Chuck attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with Rage here. I just want to see if I can build up enough Rage to get some pretty good ranges. Here we get the Fury Swipes, which we really like from Primeape. Then it goes Karate Chop, but we've built up quite a bit of Rage there. That brings out the Poliwrath, which does hit the Hypnosis and goes Mind Reader here, then hits the Dynamic Punch, dealing significant damage. We wake up, but Surf just takes us down from there. Still, we might have gotten through without the sleep, so I'm going to try this one again. So once again, we will go Rage here, just hoping that we can build it up a decent amount on this Primeape. It obviously has a chance to go Fury Swipes there, but it doesn't go for it that time. And here, Surf from about half health is more than enough to one-shot our Steelix. So let's test this out a little bit more. Once again, we're really hoping for Fury Swipes. We get it this time, so we get a little more Rage built up before the Poliwrath comes out. We managed to hit Rage first. We get down to 6 HP after the hit from the Surf, and we would need another Quick Claw activation to outspeed here. We are 6 points in speed slower than the Poliwrath. This time we get to the Poliwrath on almost full health after just taking Fury Swipes. So we once again hit a pretty good Rage. It misses a Hypnosis. It finally hits the Hypnosis after several turns, and now it's going to take us out due to the Surf. It might be better to just go for a Mint Berry here. I'm going to test that strategy instead of the Quick Claw, because that might be what we actually need if we just get one of these runs where he does go for Hypnosis. So once again, we get a run where we get to the Poliwrath on almost full health after a couple of Fury Swipes. He goes for Hypnosis. We recover with the Mint Berry, doing nearly half here with Rage, and we just need 2 more hits. And at that point, Surf isn't enough. We managed to get the victory. So Steelix gets through. It's pretty sus there on that fight against Chucky Boy without dropping rare candies. I'm not saying it would be impossible. We could definitely go for some sort of like Sunny Day strat, basically copying what Jasmine does in order to lower the power of Surf. That would have been one strategy. Obviously, learning a stronger move than Rage that we were using there could have been a strategy as well. Dig might have just been doing significantly more damage. Headbutt might have been a better play. But basically, it turns out that you didn't need to add on any new TMs there in order to get that fight to go. It's just maybe not the easiest easiest fight to get through. With that being said though, in the next gym, we're going to be up against Claire's Kingdra and all of those Dragonairs before, which will have at least some moves that can damage our Steelix. So I'm not sure how we're actually going to go in that section. It might turn out to be really, really rough. Still with that done, it's time to check in on our Scizor, which is running Headbutt, Agility, Fury Cutter, and Pursuit, with Fury Cutter being a same type move that could actually help us out quite a bit here. Plus Agility allows us to actually outspeed things. This Pokemon might turn out to be pretty decent. We're only neutrally affected by fighting type moves for one thing, and we're definitely getting to Metal Claw in this section, so that will give us another same type move, probably to throw on over Pursuit, and we'll just have to see from there how we actually do. But that's going to be basically my game plan. I'm going to go to the Rocket Hideout once again because I think it's the best way to progress in this one, and let's just see how this Pokemon actually goes. It might turn out to be significantly better than Steelix in this section. And sure enough, Scizor makes really quick work of all of the rockets. Even against the Magnemites, you just use Fury Cutter and you get through them just fine. So that brings us to the final Rocket Executive here, where I think I'm just going to build up Fury Cutter because it's not like this Arbok can really do anything to me. And I think it might be worth it to just build up this move a bunch so that we can sweep through the rest of the team. We know that the Fury Cutter strats are pretty OP as we just one-shot Gloom there. And here, after knocking out Gloom, we can learn Metal Claw over Pursuit. But I'm just going to stick with Fury Cutter here on the Murkrow, getting an easy one-hit KO and taking that Pokemon down. We can see that Fury Cutter is pretty OP. I mean, we've seen it repeatedly in this challenge series, and it's become so well known that it's a strong move that even RBY Pokemon Challenges decided to steal it from Gen 2 in order to put in a Gen 1 Scyther run. If you haven't seen that already, you should totally go over to his channel and tell him that he's not GSC Pokemon Challenges. In fact, I think we should start a petition, a movement, to stop RBY Pokemon Challenges from stealing Gen 2 content. I mean, I was kind of just letting it slide while he was just backporting hidden power moves, since, you know, I mean, they don't have any special effects and we don't like just manipulate our DVs for hidden powers on this channel. But the second he starts stealing my Fury Cutter strats, it makes me feel like that's the real reason he asked me to come on his channel before, so that he could learn a thing or two about Gen 2 and then incorporate it into his own videos. I mean, he even did a steel type Magneton recently. Are you kidding me? RBY Pokemon Challenges, he must be stopped. Anyway, that's enough of that rant. Let's get here to the fight against Pryce, which I think we're just going to build up some Fury Cutter and get an easy victory, but let's see how this actually goes. So first up against the Seal, I think Fury Cutter is the play. We're just going to sit here and build this one up. It looks like it's going to take 3 hits. We get an attack drop, but that still doesn't matter. Dugong comes out next. It's going to be a 2-hitter as well as we get another attack drop. Still no problems there as we get to the Piloswine. We nearly one-shot. At this point, I'm just going to use anything to knock this Pokemon out. Metal Claw with a critical hit does the job, and we get the easy victory. So Pryce was no problem whatsoever. Now let's make our way over to, I think, first Chucky Boy, since we're only neutrally affected there, and it's not like we have anything great for Jasmine on our moveset. I think that's the way to go. So first things first, let's just see how this Pokemon does against the Black Belt Bros here. Against the first Hitmonlee, I think this is going to be pretty easy. I'm just going to go for Headbutt here. We can even go for Metal Claw. I guess Metal Claw is probably technically stronger due to the same type of attack bonus, but it still is going to take 2 hits to knock these Pokemon out. Still, we get through just fine. So let's try to make our way through the rest of the randos and on to the gym leader. And sure enough, we make it to Chucky Boy with no issues. If we need to, we can even go for agility in order to go for flinch strats with Headbutt, but I think we're already faster than the Poliwrath, so it's really just about the Primeape first. So it's probably better to go with the Mint Berry here, since I expect he's probably going to try to put me to sleep. Let's see how this actually goes. So first up on the Primeape, even here we actually managed to be faster than this Pokemon. We Headbutt, it goes for Karate Chop, but we just knocked that one out in 2 hits. Out next is the Poliwrath. We'll stick with the Headbutt here. It misses the first Hypnosis. Now it goes Mind Reader, but that just gives us the victory as we get to level 33. Chucky Boy never stood a chance in that one as we get the nice, easy win. And he should be even easier when we come back with Scyther, but for now, Scizor really just hasn't had any major issues in this entire section. I'm interested to see how we do against Jasmine though, because this is the point where we really don't have anything good. I mean, we can learn Rock Smash if we really want to, but other than that, everything's a normal type move or something that's resisted. We won't get to Slash here. We won't get to Swords Dance, of course. So this could actually turn out to be a really tough fight. We're just going to have to see how it actually works out. Fury Cutter might come into play, but we got to keep in mind with paralysis, we might not be able to build up the move enough to actually use it effectively. So I'm actually a little bit nervous here, but let's just see if this can actually work out. So Jasmine attempt number 1 against the first Magnemite. Technically, Headbutt is our strongest move, though I highly doubt that's going to deal enough damage. Let's see what Fury Cutter does if we start building it up. Of course, we get paralyzed here. Then Thunderbolt does a lot of damage to us, and we just can't survive after a critical hit from that. Now, we can go for the Paralyzed Cure Berry in order to try to steal a turn, and then maybe go for like a miss from the Thunder Wave. But that's honestly all I can think of as potential strategies to get through here. Let's make sure that we're fully healed coming in and at least try that Paralyzed Cure Berry, because if we could manage to build up enough, then we might just sweep. But I'm not sure if this is actually going to work out. So first up against Jasmine here, let's go for the Fury Cutter still. She goes Thunderbolt, immediately getting a critical hit this time. And from that level, she's just going to stick with the Thunderbolt, it looks like, and knock us out. So she's clearly mixing up between Thunderbolt and Thunder Wave. This time we get Thunder Wave and we get the heal, and we'd really like to see her just miss one of those. This time we get confused, but we do manage to knock out the Magnemite. That brings out the Steelix, which goes Iron Tail, but we managed to hit the Fury Cutter, dealing pretty decent damage. It knocks us out the next turn with a critical hit though. So we're going to have to try this again. And like I said, I think we're really banking on getting a Thunder Wave miss or two, plus maybe a crit in order to get through this one. Remember, it is a 25% chance to get that miss from Thunder Wave. So even getting a couple of Thunder Wave misses is not outside the realm of possibility. It's about the same luck as a critical hit. This time we get one Thunder Wave miss, then we get Supersonic, and then Thunder Wave finally hits, but we heal with the Paralyzed Cure Berry. We snap out of confusion, knocking out that first Magnemite with no status on. Now we do pretty decent damage against the Steelix. It goes for the Iron Tail. We hit another Fury Cutter, and if we can hit one more, we will be able to knock this Pokemon out. Granted, she goes for the Hyper Potion, so we're actually going to need 3 more to hit. Then we miss, and that's basically game over, I think, because I don't think we're going to be able to build up enough before we get knocked out by the Iron Tails. Unfortunately, we didn't quite get the luck to get that one to go. Still, we can kind of see the strategy that has to work out here. This time we get the Thunder Wave miss, but unfortunately it does manage to finally get us paralyzed. Still, we're 2 Steelix. We're confused, but we're not in quite as bad shape. We get a nice critical hit there. She Iron Tails, but we knock her out the next turn. That brings us to the final Magnemite. It goes Thunderbolt, but we move and we get the one-hitter. So it took quite a few attempts there, but it turns out you're banking on like a Thunder Wave miss. You got to get the Paralyzed Cure Berry on. Obviously, the Paralyzed Cure Berry works 100% of the time when you do get hit, but you're looking ideally for 2 Thunder Wave misses there. We got a nice critical hit in this one, so we do manage to get through, but it's very, very close with this Pokemon. And I'm just not sure what other strategies you could really go for that are going to be that much better than the Fury Cutter strat. Because when you look at our move setup there, everything is basically resisted here. Like I said, we could try Rock Smash. That's basically it. I think like in a normal run, you would want to manipulate your hidden power to have something good against this team, like a hidden power ground or something to take advantage of your attack stat, or maybe a hidden power fighting could make sense. In the absence of that, it's kind of funny that Scizor's moveset is really, really shallow. And that makes me nervous now for Scyther, because we're going to be coming in here with a type weakness against electric. We might not be able to get through here. That might be the end of the line. Let's get into this and find out though. So here with Scyther, we're running Fury Cutter, Leer, Pursuit, and Headbutt at this point. And it turns out, yeah, Double T was moved to much later in this version of the game. I forgot about that. We're going to get Wing Attack in this section at level 30, but that might not be enough to really get us through anything. It's obviously not going to help in that fight against Jasmine. So now I'm nervous. I'm really nervous about this Pokemon. We might actually find a challenger that can't get through just due to its bad moveset. Still, I think our best play is still just to go to beat up on all of the rockets first. Let's just get the free levels essentially while they're there. Then, like I said, Chuck should be significantly easier here because we have a 4 times resistance to fighting type. So that's not exactly scary by any means. But after that, we might be in tough shape. And in fact, we have to test this out against Jed here in the rocket hideout because he's got 3 Magnemites. And if we can't build up enough here before they Thundershock us down, we might actually find that this section is impossible and we have to go somewhere else. So Jed attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to lead off with Headbutt just to see what kind of damage we do. We do a little less than half. We might need the flinches here because we can see we're like a 4-hit KO from that Thundershock. We do get the level up right here, so these might be 2-hit KOs now. And we get a flinch on the second Magnemite, so that's perfectly fine. Third Magnemite, we get the Thundershock, but at this point, it's perfectly fine because of the fact that we leveled up and that turned them into 2-hit KOs. If they were 3-hit KOs, we would have needed a lot of flinch luck to get through there. Now, one massive advantage that we have here with Scyther is that we are faster than everything, basically. So we can go for flinch strats if we really want to, but that's basically it. I think otherwise we're going to be worse than the Scizor here. So ultimately, we get through the rocket hideout without any major issues. We can get to the final executive here right at the end, where I think Headbutt or the Fury Cutter strats are going to be enough. Let's try Headbutt this time. We get a one-shot with a critical hit on that first Arbok. We can just Headbutt on the Murkrow. It's going to be a 2-hitter as it goes Peck, but really no issue there. We level up and learn Wing Attack. We'll learn that over Pursuit right now. And let's just see how this move does against the Gloom, where we get a 1-hit KO with Wing Attack. So really not too bad to get through that section. But now we have a type weakness against Pryce, and we don't have any good moves against Jasmine. So I think we have to make our way to Chuck at this point. I mean, Pryce might punt enough that we can actually manage a victory, but I think this is going to be the better way to go. So first up, let's take on the Black Belt Bros down here, where we're just going to go for, we should have gone for Wing Attack. I went Headbutt by mistake, but still we knock out the first Hitmonlee with no damage taken. Let's just switch that Wing Attack into the top slot since it is the strongest move in this gym, and we one-shot against the Hitmonchan. So we're obviously going to get through all of these randos just fine. Let's make our way to Chuck. And now Chucky Boy's going to throw rocks, which would be super effective against our Pokemon. Unfortunately, he didn't teach his Pokemon to do that. So we can simply go for Wing Attack to destroy the Primeape and get to level 32 as the Poliwrath comes out. It's a 2-hit KO, but it just goes Mind Reader, giving the free victory. But that may be the only free victory left in this one because I'm pretty sure that Jasmine is just going to destroy me. Still, we won't know until we try it, so let's get over there and just test some things out. It's Jasmine or Pryce at this point. They are the only 2 trainers available. And this is the obligatory spot to remind everybody that we do have 6 rare candies available in this section of the game. So in theory, we could be getting ourselves up to level 38 here, which would get us access to Slash. Maybe that could help us with the higher critical hit chance, but I just don't think it's going to deal that much damage. So it's probably not going to help us that much. But that's really it. That's all we can get other than going for return. I don't think the tech does enough for us to get through here. And so, yeah, I think that or Rock Smash to try to get some range that way. But again, Rock Smash would only be effective 40 power, which I don't think would really help us that much. Still, I'm going to try Jasmine once, then we'll go try Pryce once, and then we'll just see how this actually works out. So Jasmine attempt number 1. Let's just see how much damage we do with different things. Let's go Headbutt first. We did half with a crit here, and we even flinch the Magnemite. and we get a second crit back to back, allowing us to take that first Pokemon out. The second Magnemite comes out, we headbutt, it hits the Thunder Wave here, and then Thunderbolt, it looks to be a 2-hit KO, so we're simply losing. So even with God tier luck on the first of the Magnemites, that was not enough. We needed back-to-back crits in order to get through that first Pokemon, so let's go try our hand at Pryce instead. So Pryce attempt number 1 here with his Seal. I'm going to go for the Headbutt here just to see how much damage we do. This is going to be a 2-hitter on the Seal, but we do manage to take it down. Dugong's out next, and we take Aurora Beam, which did pretty massive damage. We're really hoping for a flinch. We managed to get it, so we knocked that Pokemon out, getting to level 33. And against the Piloswine, we flinch turn 1, but it hits Blizzard turn 2, and we lose. Let's try this again. Let's see if Fury Cutter is a better strategy. Of course, with Fury Cutter, the whole idea is that we build it up on the Seal, and it turns out to be a 3-hitter on that Pokemon. Dugong comes out next and is going to be a 2-hitter, and it gets a critical hit to defeat us, but we might be able to get through if we just hit all the Fury Cutters here and don't get any crits from them. This time we get critical hit by the Seal, though. That could already be game over. I'm not sure. Let's see how we do against the Dugong. We get a 1-hitter that time. We get to level 33 as Piloswine comes out, only to miss with the Fury Cutter. At this point, I think we just have to go headbutt. We get a flinch, but then Blizzard freezes us. I was gonna say we survived, but we still go down due to the freeze. That was so close, honestly, that I think this one is winnable. It's just not going to be pretty with this Scyther. We're going to need a lot of luck to get through this. This time we don't get the range quite to knock out the Dugong, but that's just fine. We've made it back to Piloswine. We hit Fury Cutter this time, and we do get the 1-hitter. So we have managed to get through that fight. Not in a pretty way by any means, but it has proven to be possible. But that brings us back to Jasmine, where I think the only way that we get through is going to be to once again throw on the Paralyzed Cure Berry. I think we're going to have to go for that same Fury Cutter strat here that we tried with Scizor, hoping that we can manage to get enough misses from Thunder Wave. And that might be too luck-based to get through here. We're just going to have to see. Let's test this out. So back to Jasmine, a level higher at level 33. We're going for, oh, I did Headbutt first, and we get a flinch. Okay, so let's go Fury Cutter after that. We get Supersonic from this Magnemite. It goes Thunder Wave after that, but we're going to be able to heal, only to hit ourselves in confusion, and that's basically all she wrote for this one, as we get completely destroyed by Thunderbolt. Let's try this one again. So we'll go back to trying to build up the Fury Cutter here, hoping that it goes for the Thunder Wave and misses. Unfortunately, we don't get that level of luck. We hit ourselves in confusion, and at that point, it's just over. It's just going to knock us out in 2 more hits with the Thunderbolt, so there's no point even continuing at that point. We get a nice Thunder Wave miss, and even a second one here in this one, so we finally knock out that Magnemite. Second Magnemite comes out, we go Fury Cutter and get the 1-shot. We have made it to Steelix on full health. We hit the first Fury Cutter, then it goes Rock Throw though, doing over half to us, and we would need a critical hit on the Steelix to get through. So even when we get the God tier luck to get there, it's a critical hit or nothing on the final Steelix. And that might be too much luck to justify resetting here, because how often are you going to get the 2 misses that you need from the Thunder Wave? About 6.25% of the time, the same as a critical hit. And then how often are you actually going to get the luck to get that crit on the Steelix? It's like another critical hit. Here we got a critical hit on that Magnemite, which allowed us to get through it. We get confused, but now we're to the Steelix, confused, paralyzed, but with Fury Cutter fully built up. It goes Screech this time, but at that point, it's just going to knock us out the next turn with the Rock Throw. So I'm basically ready to say right now that this one does not appear to be possible at this current level. Still, let's test the Rock Smash strat just to see if it gives us anything worthwhile here. Otherwise, I think we go Max Power Return first and possibly go King's Rock, hoping for some flinches. So here I'm going to try replacing Headbutt with Rock Smash just to see what kind of damage we do. I don't expect this to be very good though, given that it is such a weak move. It can get a defense drop, which could help us, but we'll just have to see. So here against the Magnemite, let's go Rock Smash. We do a little less than half here. We use it again, getting a critical hit the next time. So that does take that first Pokemon down. We still are probably banking on a miss from the Thunder Wave there in order to have a chance. And we might need a defense drop as well. Still, this makes it look like at least with a couple levels, we might be purely two-shotting here against these Magnemites. That could be what we actually need. So I'm going to start dropping a couple of my rare candies here. Let's get to level 35 first. So back to this fight at level 35. Let's see if the damage rounding threshold is enough to make this a two-hitter. We get a critical hit turn 1, and that did not one-shot, but it could have been a low roll. So I'm still going to stick with this and just see. And it still does not quite look like we're getting the two-hit range on these Magnemites. Still, it could be a range because this time we got something that does look like a two-hitter. Second Magnemite comes out and we don't quite get that range this time, but maybe we just need a high roll after that. We sure enough do get the two-hit KO here at level 35. That brings us back to the Steelix, where we can see still that it's just two-hit KOing us and we don't have enough damage output to get even close to knocking it out. The Rock Throw being 4 times super effective is just a little too OP here. And from a range like that, it's not like the max power return is going to get us the job done either. So I'm going to go all in on rare candies here. We get Slash here at the next level. I'll forget Leer to learn that move. Maybe the high critical hit chance will be enough to get us through. But I'm just going all the way up to level 39 here to see if we have any shot of getting through with our Scyther. So in this case, I still think we just stick with Rock Smash on the first Magnemite, since we can just get a two-hit KO now at this level. We're going to need one Thunder Wave miss, or in this case, we get Supersonic, which is perfectly fine because that at least allows us to get to the Steelix. And now we can try different things, but I'll see if Slash does anything for us here. Unfortunately, we just hit ourselves in confusion, so we don't even get to see the range. Just kind of hoping to see if maybe the high critical hit chance of that move gives us some chance of getting through an otherwise tough fight. We do manage to get back to Steelix on full health this time, and Slash without a crit does 9 damage here, so basically nothing. We are surviving 2 rock throws at this point, so there is some hope we get a rock throw miss even, but we're just not going to deal enough damage there to get through. So that leaves really only the Fury Cutter strat left, where once again we have to hope to get the misses here in order to be able to set up Fury Cutter. I'm going to reset a few times for this just to see if the fully built up Fury Cutter can deal enough damage there. We get 2 misses from this first Magnemite and then heal with the Paralyzed Cure Berry, so that's perfectly fine. Second Magnemite does get wrecked this time. We're back to Steelix. We get a nice critical hit there. She misses a Screech. Now we get the Hyper Potion. We've got to keep hitting with the Fury Cutters, but another Screech miss, and we do manage to get through at level 39 with the Fury Cutter strat. We had to drop all of the rare candies. It's not pretty to get through that. I do not recommend that. It is possible to beat Jasmine on minimum battles with a Scyther, but I mean, that's just so insanely luck-based. I mean, misses, getting the Fury Cutter completely built up. I could see a perfectly valid argument for calling this Pokemon a fail here, but let me just be clear that I think this Pokemon, based on this performance, is probably going to end up failing somewhere anyway, because consider that by the time we get to Lance at the end of the game, he's going to have super effective moves with almost all of his Pokemon against us. And I just highly doubt that we're going to have any move that sweeps there. So even if we found some way to get through Claire next, there are so many Pokemon that stand in our way that could honestly end this run that I don't think we're going to actually be getting that far on minimum battles with Scyther from this point. But we'll just see. For now, it's insanely lucky, but Scyther does move on. Now let's get into our member picks, starting with our Pinsir. So it's time for channel member Johnny Plays 911 and his SirFlail the Pinsir, coming in with Swords Dance, Fury Cutter, Seismic Toss, and Harden. We got rid of the move Flail, but the big difference for this Pokemon is that we have Swords Dance. That is going to allow us to actually set up a little bit here. Seismic Toss might not actually be the best play in a lot of spots in this section, though it will allow us to deal neutral damage at least. We are going to get to Guillotine via level up at level 31, though again, I'm not sure if that's actually going to be useful given our slow level up group. What really could come through for us, of course, is that the Swords Dance plus Fury Cutter or Swords Dance plus something like Headbutt or Rock Smash might be enough to get us through Jasmine. We'll just have to see. But for now, I'm going to go to the Rocket Hideout first, then to Chucky Boy, and we'll see how we go from there. So here we do make it to the end of the Rocket Hideout. We actually had some trouble with the executive all the way down in the bottom of the basement because he kept confusing me when I would set up Swords Dance and then I would knock myself out. Still, I think this fight's going to be pretty easy because we're not really worried about any sort of confusion strats. So let's just set up all the Swords Dance on the first Arbok here so that we can build up our Fury Cutter as powerful as possible. Wrap and Poison aren't going to really be that bad, I don't think. We should be able to just start building up. If I had actually come in with any PP, turns out we didn't have enough Fury Cutter PP to actually execute the strategy. Let's do this again properly this time and see how it goes. So once again, we will set up the 3 Swords Dances, and then after we're fully set up, we'll go into the Fury Cutters. This is a 2-hitter on Arbok after that. The Murkrow, we actually miss, unfortunately, so we're going to have to take 2 hits to knock that Pokemon out. Still, it goes down just fine, and against the Gloom, we get the 1-shot, so we managed to win when we actually come in properly prepared to do so. It really wasn't that bad. Yes, we got on low health due to the Pecs, but that's more because of the miss on the Murkrow. If we didn't miss there, that would have been a super easy victory. But now with that done, we don't have any sort of type weakness against Pryce, so I'm just going to come here and try his gym because Swords Dance plus the Fury Cutter might be enough to just sweep through the team. Let's see how this goes. So Pryce attempt number 1, we'll just set up Fury Cutter on the first seal. It goes Icy Wind and gets the speed drop, but I think that's fine. Let's just build up all the way and now go into the Fury Cutter. It's going to be a 2-hitter on this Pokemon. After that, I think it's just going to be a 1-hitter on the Dugong. Aurora Beam did a lot of damage, but we still knocked that one out. We're faster than Piloswine, and Fury Cutter just destroys it, so we get to level 29 with no issues. Even in the slow level up group, turns out that Pryce isn't really a problem at all. So with that, let's make our way down to Chuck's gym, where at least we're going to resist all of their moves. We may end up replacing Seismic Toss with something else on the basis that we might want to, for example, Headbutt here in order to deal better damage. We'll just have to see. Seismic Toss is kind of nice in some ways because it allows us to deal fixed damage, but it's kind of bad in other ways in that it doesn't synergize with the Swords Dance at all. Still, that might actually be our best way of getting through the Magnemites on Jasmine's team, and it might even deal significant damage against that Steelix. So we might not want to forget this move too quickly. In fact, if we forget anything here, it might be better to forget the move Harden in order to keep our other moves. Still, let's just see how we do against the Black Belt Bros first. Here, Seismic Toss is going to be a 3-hit KO, but it's not like we're going to take much damage from Hitmonlee, so we take that one down nice and easy. Let's see how we do against the Hitmonchan next. Here we can once again go for the Seismic Toss. We get a Thunder Punch that didn't do that much, and then Comet Punch, so we're getting through that just fine. And now we're ready to make our way through the rest of the randos in the gym. And sure enough, we can make our way straight to Chucky Boy with no issues. It's time to see if we can manage a victory here. So first up, he's got the Primeape. I'm going to set up Swords Dance right here. He misses a Leer turn 1. Karate Chop's really not that scary. And now I'm going to start setting up Fury Cutter. Even though it's resisted, the fact that we can build up with the Swords Dance is going to allow us to do significant damage. It takes 3 hits to knock out the Primeape, but now Poliwrath is out and we get the 1-hit KO thanks to all the buildup. So we are able to get the victory. And with Chucky Boy done, the only trainer left is Jasmine. We're going to have to see if we can manage a strategy that gets through her. Keeping in mind, we're at a lower level than we were previously with the Scyther. Still, this is a member pick, so one of the things that we could do is give ourselves access to the move Submission. I didn't add it onto the moveset previously, but it would actually be a strategy that could help in some spots, including this one. So if everything else fails, that might be my strategy for getting through here, given that it is a member pick Pokemon, and that honestly might be the best strategy available to this Pokemon. Obviously, we forgot Flail at some point. You could just throw on you know, a move like Headbutt or something rather than the Fury Cutter at the right spot, and you might be able to get it to go. So let's test this out against Jasmine and just see how it actually goes. But I'm a little nervous coming into this one. Of course, she leads off with the Magnemite, and here Seismic Toss is just going to get the 2-hit KO on this Pokemon, so we can manage to get that one down. We can learn Guillotine next, and for now, I'm going to learn this over Harden. Let's just see what that does for us. Obviously, we can't use it here against the Steelix because it's at a higher level, and Seismic Toss is going to be a 4-hit KO on this Pokemon. Iron Tail does pretty decent damage, so we're going to need an Iron Tail miss or two. We get her to low health. She hyper potions at that point, and we would need 2 more Iron Tail misses to actually get that one to go. Let's try this one again, where this time we do get Thunder Waved and paralyzed. So not ideal as we get to Guillotine at this point. The Steelix is out, but we're simply not going to get through without God tier luck on this one. Still, let's make sure that we have that Paralyzed Cure Berry on, and we can at least try something like the Fury Cutter strat as well, just to see if it can work out. This time we get the Thunder Wave miss one turn, but not the other turn that we would have needed. And we see we take a lot of damage there, so that's clearly not going to work out in this one. Still, that kind of makes me wonder how the Rock Smash strat will go here. Now, if this doesn't work, keep in mind Submission is on the moveset at level 37, so it could have been learned by a breeding. I mean, this was a Pinsir that was bred with Flail. There's no reason it couldn't have been bred with the level up move Submission as well. And that may be our go-to if everything else fails. But let's just see what happens with Rock Smash here. So I'm going to add on the move Rock Smash over Hardened in this one. We'll just skip the Guillotine since, again, we're not ever really going to be at higher levels than things where Guillotine could actually affect them, so it doesn't make much sense. But Rock Smash could make sense here because it could be a situation where a Swords Dance into Rock Smash allows us to knock out the Magnemites, and then we might just set up another Swords Dance or two and try to knock out the Steelix. Let's see how this goes. So here, turn 1, I'm going to set up one Swords Dance. We get confused by the Magnemite here, but now I'm going to try to go Rock Smash as we get paralyzed, but we use the Paralyzed Cure Berry, and we just don't quite get the one-hitter there. Let's try this one again, though. So here, instead, let's go for the Swords Dance twice on this one, hoping that we can get a situation where we don't get knocked out. We take a Thunderbolt, but we do manage to knock out that Magnemite. We'll skip Guillotine. That brings out the Steelix, where we can go Rock Smash, and we did 29 damage there. So this is still going to be a 4-hit KO. I'm going to set up another Swords Dance here, only to have a misclick, but then we get a nice critical hit that one-shots. And now with everything built up, can we one-shot this Magnemite? Yes, we can. So it turns out that Rock Smash plus these Swords Dance strats are enough to get SirFlail through. So even without having to go through some shenanigans of getting submission here, Johnny Plays 911 still continues on minimum battles. And honestly, in the next section with Swords Dance, I mean, we could have added on, you know, Return or Headbutt or any other physical move. And when we get to Submission at level 37, we can obviously throw that on in the place of Rock Smash. And we may just be able to find situations to build up enough to knock opponents out. So I'm going to be very interested to see how Pinsir progresses in this. But for now, it is through 7 gyms on minimum battles, needing only Flail to get it through the first gym, because Honest Abe's Pecs were just way too strong against this Pokemon. Outside of that, it's actually doing pretty darn well. But now we are on to Forretrss, and Forretrss had a little bit of an issue on the member picks form that I put out for the channel members to put in the Pokemon that they wanted. Basically, it didn't get properly updated as picked, and 2 members decided to pick this Pokemon. The first to pick it was cheeseboywanna, who has his BabyBel that's running Rollout, Protect, Pin, Missile, and Takedown. However, then we have a second channel member who has also selected this Pokemon, Flashliger. Again, tell me if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, but he named his Forretrss RolyPoly, and it's running a completely different moveset. He requested Toxic, Protect, Earthquake, and for some flavor, apparently, Aeroblast. Not sure how Aeroblast makes sense, but I just thought it would be kind of hilarious. Plus the Protect plus toxic strats could be really OP. I decided that because it was my mistake that it wasn't properly made unavailable, so two people put in the same request, that I will simply honor both by running two versions of this Forretrss, but I'm going to run them from where we are right now. So we're going to start off with BabyBel from cheeseboywanna, then we will come back with Flashliger's second Forretrss, RolyPoly, and we're going to see how they go. BabyBel's up first with the Rollout, Protect, Pin Missile, and Takedown moveset at this point. I definitely think we go to the Rocket Hideout first just to beat up on them, and let's see how that actually works out. So here, BabyBel the Forretrss makes it to the end of the Rocket Hideout with no issues. We did have to get a little bit of a good range with the takedown strats against Jed's Magnemites, but it is possible to get it to go as long as you don't miss. And now on the final executive, I think we just set up the rollout and hope not to get flinched here, and then we should be just fine to get through this Pokemon. It's a 3-hitter to take down the first Arbok. We get a level up and learn Bide here. I think this is a good move to learn. I'm going to learn it over Protect because I think we can use some Bide strats to get through some tough opponents. After that, though, the 4th hit from Rollout just one-shots against that Gloom, and out comes the Murkrow. It hits Peck, but we hit the Rollout and get the easy victory. So no problems there to get through the Rocket Hideout, and now it's time to make our way over to Pryce. And I expect that the Rollout is going to be more than enough to simply get us through this gym, especially since we don't have any type weaknesses here, but let's see if it actually works out as easy as I think. So first up on the seal, I'm just going to start setting up the Rollout. We get a critical hit turn 1 and Aurora Beamed. So he's not even going for the speed drop, but that's perfectly fine. It's a 3-hitter there on that Pokemon. Dugong comes out next and gets completely destroyed. As we get to level 30, Piloswine comes out and there we miss. But it's not like this Pokemon can do anything that's super scary to us. Like, I'm even just going to Pin Missile to kind of be annoying here. Blizzard did damage, but not that much because we resist the move. We get frozen though, and that's kind of unlucky because if we had just hit the Rollout, obviously we would have won here. Unfortunately, we get bad luck, so we lose that attempt. Let's try this one again, hoping that Rollout actually builds up properly this time and doesn't miss. We get the speed drop this time, which is kind of bad, but we're still going to get through the seal. That brings out the Dugong next. It goes Aurora Beam, but then it just gets wrecked yet again. We get to level 30 as Piloswine comes out, and here we can even go Bide, because if it does start hitting the blizzards on us, we're just going to store damage and then unleash it back. It didn't do as much as I thought it would do though, so I'll switch to Rollout after that, hoping that we just build up the damage. And as long as we don't get frozen, we should be able to win. Sure enough, we get the victory on the second attempt. So really, he just either freezes you and wins, or he doesn't freeze you and he loses, which is pretty much par for the course there, I think, for Pryce. I don't think we've ever seen him actually turn out to be a wall here, even in the situations where he was completely set up to get victories. But now with that done, I think the only logical play is to go down to take on Chuck's gym. We're neutrally affected by the fighting type moves here, but I think we'll still be able to find a way through, especially since we've got to take down on the moveset. We'll have to get through some of these randos going up the lighthouse first though, just for efficiency of routing. So here, as BabyBel gets down to the fighting gym, I think we just go for the takedown on the Hitmonlee. It's an easy 2-hit KO on this Pokemon. That will bring out the Hitmonchan next, which I think we can do more of the same on. It goes Comet Punch, which does basically nothing, and this is just going to be a 2-hitter, except it fire punches, resulting in us fainting because of recoil damage. So he got us just in the worst possible situation there. Next attempt though, we get a nice critical hit on the Hitmonlee, so we take it down in a single hit. That brings out the Hitmonchan next. We can go back to the takedown as it just ice punches, and then it thunder punches. So clearly Hitmonchan, it can make the correct decision about 1 in 4 times there. Otherwise, it's just going to use the wrong move, and we don't really care. So I think we're going to be able to get through the rest of these randos as well, but let's just see. Unfortunately, takedown is enough for all the rest of these fighting types here. So we managed to get to Chucky Boy. Let's see if we can actually manage the victory with takedown here though, or are we going to need some other sort of strategy? So Chuck attempt number 1, he leads off with the Primeape. I'm going for takedown. It's going to be a 2-hit KO on this Pokemon as he just goes for Fury Swipes. So we take that one down nice and easy. Out next is the Poliwrath. It goes Mind Reader. We get a critical hit takedown. Then it lands the Dynamic Punch. We hit ourselves in confusion and he knocks me out the next turn. So we're going to need better luck than that if we're going to get through this, but it does look like this should be possible, if not pretty. So next attempt, we're back to the Poliwrath. We might even try the Bide strat here if we can manage to stay awake. Unfortunately, we get put to sleep, and at that point, I think we're simply going to lose because he just Mind Readers into Dynamic Punch, and he simply can knock us out from there. Next attempt, he misses a Hypnosis. He misses a Hypnosis again. Now he goes Surf when we're on low health, and that causes us to knock ourselves out with Recoil, even though we would have knocked him out as well. So we simply lose that attempt. We're going to have to try this one again. Because this is a solo challenge, I count ties as losses, as if I had only one Pokemon. Yes, I know I've got HM Pokemon in the team that would allow me to technically get the victory there, but we're not going to do that because we have to legitimately win with our main Pokemon in this. Still, this attempt, we just managed to get no hits from the Poliwrath, so we knock it out with 3 takedowns. So BabyBel does manage to get through. Cheeseboywanna, you're looking a little sus here, but you have managed to get the job done. But now the real question is, do we have any way whatsoever of getting through Jasmine here? The problem here is that none of our moves are really all that effective against this team. So while we could go for like Rock Smash strats again, that may not work out. We might have to go Bide strats even just to get through the Magnemites. And then we probably won't have enough HP left for the Steelix. I'm still going to test this out. Let's just see how it actually works. And we might need to just upgrade a bunch of moves and hope that we can find something. So let's get into it and find out. Up first, we've got the Magnemite. I'm just going to see what different things do here. If we go for Rollout, it does very, very little until we build up. So we would probably need, again, kind of like that Fury Cutter luck that we were getting previously. If we go for Pin Missile, it doesn't do much either. And that's clearly going to take like 2 5-hit Pin Missiles at least to knock out the Magnemite. So that's already a fail. And then let's just see what the Takedown does. Takedown here does decent-ish damage. It did about 26 HP there, but that's still going to be a 3-hit KO on this Magnemite. So what I'm going to try to do first is I'm going to try to go for the Rollout strat just to see if I can manage to get the luck to get enough misses from the Thunder Wave. We've seen it happen already. We can put on the Paralyzed Cure Berry to help out as well, but we're going to probably need at least 2 misses if I have to guess. And sure enough, it looks like we'll need 2 misses from Thunder Wave, which is about a 6.25% chance. But then what we're hoping is that the Rollout will build up enough that will still do really good damage against the second Magnemite. I'm assuming it will come out next. And in that case, we could at least try to make our way to the Steelix and see what happens. We get really close to getting it this time. We do manage to at least knock out the first of the Magnemites, only to then miss the Rollout on the Steelix. And the Iron Tail after the Screech is just doing too much damage, so we're simply going to lose. Still, we might be able to Bide against the Steelix in order to knock it out, but we're going to need to get a lot of luck on this first Magnemite. So this time we do get back to Steelix, though again we are paralyzed. We miss right there, and now we're trying to use Bide, but because we're paralyzed, we're just not able to use the move, so I'm going to reset there. We're just on too low health to have any shot, and basically any run where we don't get a Thunder Wave miss, I think we can just reset. This time we get 2 Thunder Wave misses. That's exactly what we wanted to see. So we're going to the Steelix without paralysis. We can see the fully built up Rollout does basically nothing here, but that's not really the point. Now we're going to go Bide, hoping that it hits us and deals decent damage so we can return the damage. Here we get to return damage from a couple of those Iron Tails, but now she's simply on low enough health to heal up. So instead, I'm just going to sit here and use Pin Missile a couple times, but it's just not going to get enough damage there. Still, there is a move that might enable our Pokemon to get through here. It's not necessarily going to be ideal by any means, but I'm at least going to try it. We haven't seen Bide actually be useful at any point, But if we look at our TM Learn set, one move that could help this Pokemon progress is the move Giga Drain. The logic here is simple. It is a special move, so it's going to go up against the much lower special defense of the Steelix, but it's also going to allow us to heal at that point. So if we can manage to get to the Steelix again without the paralysis and then use that move, we might just have a shot of getting through here. But let's test this out and see. So back again, we're just hoping to get a run where we get the luck to not get hit by the Thunder Wave. We managed to knock out the Magnemite. We're confused but not paralyzed this time. We hit the first hit on the Steelix, but now I'm going to switch into that Giga Drain. And we can see it doesn't do a lot of damage, but it is recovering us a little bit of HP. The problem with this move is that it doesn't have a whole lot of PP to work with. There she Hyper Potions, and that is all the Giga Drains. So that may be the issue with that move. Still, it could come down to like a critical hit or something with that. A few attempts later, we do get a nice critical hit from the Giga Drain, but it doesn't get the KO as she goes back for the Hyper Potion. We get another crit even after that though. So this is about the best luck that we've ever gotten here. The problem is that none of our moves really do any meaningful damage. So short of just a crazy number of misses, we're just not going to be able to get through in this situation. So that unfortunately just doesn't work. So with that, the only other strategy that I can think of is to go for Curse here on the basis that we would then be able to boost up our defense and attack astronomically and maybe just find a way through at that point. It's not going to be pretty no matter how we do it, but then maybe Rock Smash can do something. I'm going to test this out a little bit and see. I'm not super excited about this strategy though. I still think we stick with the rollout first on the Magnemite, just hoping to not get status and knock this Pokemon out. I think anytime that we get paralysis there, we simply have to reset. So this time we do manage to get to the Steelix with the paralysis on. We hit ourselves in confusion, which isn't great, but now we can start cursing and at least we're gaining attack as we raise our defense. So we're not going to go down as quickly here, but our real goal is +6 in attack. And with that, let's try to now go back into rollout since it's 4 times stronger here. It's still not going to be pretty by any means, but we do manage to knock out the Steelix. And now the question is, how do we do against the final Magnemite? Well, we're slower and it just thunderbolts us down. So we need to get to the final Magnemite with better HP than that. So we managed to get through to the Steelix again in the next attempt. So we're going back to the Curse strats here. And we might even need the Curse plus Giga Drain here in order to recover HP, because otherwise it looks like we're just not quite getting through there. So at this point, I will put on Giga Drain over Takedown since we can learn other strong physical moves like Return or something later on if we need it. But now let's see if this is enough to get through on the basis that it actually gives us a strategy, Curse and then heal up with the Giga Drain. So this time we managed to get to the Steelix again. And now we're going to go for that Curse strat into the Giga Drains to recover HP, with the entire idea being just to manage to get our stats as high as possible as far as damaging our opponent. So now we'll swap into the Giga Drain in order to try to deal more damage. And Giga Drain at this point will be healing up more damage than what we're taking from the Steelix's Iron Tail when it doesn't crit. At least she can Hyper Potion. That's perfectly fine. We'll simply take that opportunity to heal. And now we'll go into the rollout, but we're on green health at this point. We're still going to need to land quite a few hits. We got a critical hit there, but it ran out of PP in Iron Tail. Still, we might not have enough here for the final Magnemite. Sure enough, we don't, so we go down. This is still going to be insanely luck-based to get through. We finally get another attempt where we get to the final Magnemite only to miss. Even though we had 3 HP remaining, we just didn't get the chance to actually knock that Pokemon out. So at this point, I think we have to go for the Rock Smash strat if we're going to get through this. So I'm simply going to pick up that move instead. We're going to throw it onto our BabyBel, and I'm just going to forget Pin Missile. It's our same type move, but I think that it just doesn't bring enough value. It's a little too weak. and we're generally going to want to use other moves anyway. It will definitely put us at a disadvantage in some spots where we might want that physical same type move, but it's just so luck based depending on whether it hits once or 5 times, whereas Rock Smash is going to have some immediate value here with the Curse and Giga Drain. So let's see how this works out. So first up, let's just see what Rock Smash does on the first Magnemite. It's going to be a 3-hit KO here, so we only need 1 Thunder Wave miss at this point if we use this move instead of Rollout. I do think Rollout has a lot more value later on in the run, which is why I'm keeping that move, but Rock Smash allows us to get through here without being locked into Rollout. So now we can just immediately go Curse the first turn against the Steelix. Yes, it's going to drop our defense sometimes, go Screech there, but we're just going to raise our attack stat as high as we possibly can. And then on +6 attack, let's just see what Rock Smash does here. It looks like it's going to be a 4-hit KO. I'm just going to take this opportunity to Giga Drain again to get some HP back. We get a nice critical hit there, which is going to force her to use the Hyper Potion. We're still just going to finish up with all of these Giga Drains to get as much HP as possible, and then go back into the Rock Smashes to finish this Steelix off. Takes a couple more hits, but it does go down, and that brings out the final Magnemite. It goes Thunderbolt, but we hit the Rock Smash in 1 shot. So that is clearly the best strat there, is Curse into Rock Smash, which again, you could trade this Pokemon to another cartridge in order to teach it those moves. But that's the only way that I see this BabyBel actually progressing through Jasmine. She is a wall for a Forretrss. But cheeseboywanna, you are progressing and you are going to at least have a chance to get through Claire in the next section. Is it what we wanted to do? Not really, but hey, it works out in the end. That is 7 badges down, as painful as it was to get here. But now we need to look at one more of these Forretresses with a different moveset. Let's see how that goes. But that brings us to our second version of Forretrss from channel member Flashliger. His RolyPoly is coming in with a very interesting moveset. We're coming in with Earthquake, Protect, Toxic, and Aeroblast. Now, of course, Toxic and Protect are legal moves on this Pokemon in Gen 2. Earthquake was actually added to its moveset in Gen 3. In fact, a lot of Pokemon seem to get access to Earthquake from the 3rd generation of the game. Basically, I assume it's because it's one of the best physical moves that you can get in the game, so they added it to a ton of Pokemon. Funny enough, they also gave this Pokemon Zap Cannon in the next generation, but honestly, Earthquake might be the one that makes a massive impact on this section of the game. Now, Aeroblast, on the other hand, is not a legal move in any generation as far as I can tell, and it's not really even a stand-in for something else. I was trying to look and see if maybe we would have some sort of very common move on this Pokemon that would be functionally similar to Aeroblast, but at least as far as I can tell, I can't find it. But tell me in the comments if I am wrong, of course. Still, we're going to test this out just to see, because Aeroblast does give us some coverage here. Earthquake could be a massive game changer, and Protect and Toxic strats could just be broken. So let's get into this and just see how this one actually goes, because what the heck, I figure this has to be at least better than the last version of the Forretrss that we're running. We now have a super effective move against fighting types with Aeroblast, and that Earthquake should help massively on Jasmine's team. Still, we'll have to see if it actually works out like I think it will, or is this going to be a nightmare run again? Let's find out. And before somebody gets in the comments yelling about illegal moves, let's just make a note that RBY Pokemon Challenges does this sort of stuff all the time, and he has like 4 times the subscribers that this channel has. So clearly people like when they see these sorts of things. Sometimes maybe they just hate it when I do it, but if you want to disprove that, of course, you can subscribe to this channel, and hopefully we can overtake RBY Pokemon Challenges one of these days. For now, we will get into the Rocket Hideout, where our moves should be more than enough to get through everything, and fortunately Aeroblast can affect flying types, so we don't have to worry if a Pokemon is immune to Earthquake. So we should get through this section pretty easily, but let's see if that's actually the case. And sure enough, with Earthquake and Aeroblast, we just destroy all of the rockets. We can get to the end of this section, and let's just see how the final executive actually goes. We can go Earthquake on the Arbok. We are slower, but we still get a one-hit KO there. We get to level 29. We could learn Bide. We will skip Bide in this one. Let's stick with the moveset that we've been given, and let's go Aeroblast on the Gloom, getting an easy one-hit KO on that Pokemon. Murkrow comes out last. It pecks. We go Aeroblast, and we do not score the one-hitter, but it's a two-hitter. Still no problem getting through that fight. Don't need rollout or anything. You can simply get through with this set. Now, I decided not to replay this one all the way from the beginning of the game on the basis that if we were able to get through with the Forretrss that had effectively weaker moves than this, then there's no reason we wouldn't get to this point with a Forretrss running the Earthquake and Aeroblast, especially with Protect and Toxic on the moveset. I feel like it would be strong enough to get us through basically anything in a pinch, so I just figured we'd just pick it up from where we were currently at rather than playing all the way from the beginning. Again, tell me what you think about that, but in this case, I felt like it was perfectly reasonable. Anyway, with the Rocket Hideout done, let's make our way to Pryce. I think this one's going to be insanely easy, but let's see how it actually works out. And here against Pryce, I'm going to lead off by using some Toxic just to see how this actually works out for this Pokemon. Obviously, we can use Toxic with Protect in order to just let Toxic build up. In the case of a Pokemon like Seal that we know is going to rest, I'm simply going to try to knock it out once it goes to sleep, but it goes down perfectly fine. That brings out the Dugong second, where once again, I'm going to go Toxic here, and I'm going to use some Protect strats in order to just avoid damage. We obviously know that Protect is more likely to fail if you use it 2 turns in a row, but still, we're just letting the Toxic build up on this opponent. And if we get like 3 Toxics in a row, that's going to be pretty good. We can go into Earthquake after that once this Dugong goes to sleep, just hoping to simply knock it out. It looks like this Pokemon is a simple 3-hit KO. So once it does go to sleep, you will simply get the victory there as we get to level 30. That brings out Piloswine. I will go back to the Toxic here. We missed the first one, but that's perfectly fine. We hit the next one. We'll just go for Protect and stop it from being able to hit us with the Blizzard, and we may as well just let the Toxic build up since this Pokemon does not have access to rest. Only a Hyper Potion is available, so the more turns that we waste here, the more damage it's going to take from the Toxic. He finally goes for the Hyper Potion, but it's not going to be enough here. He goes Mist, but he just goes down after that to the Toxic damage. So we get a very easy victory there against Pryce. He never stood a chance against the Toxic plus Protect strats, and that's why I really wanted to try this Pokemon out. Toxic plus Protect has the potential to be completely busted in a lot of situations. The same is true with Toxic and Detect, which is why I think that generally I would consider this to be an OP combination. But the fact that the Steel type does exist, plus the fact that Poison types can't be affected by Toxic, does at least put some checks on this strategy. I don't think it's necessarily as broken as anything in Gen 1 was, but still it could be a YOLO strat in a lot of these runs. When we get to the late game and beat Janine, we could just get access to Toxic and Protect and just kind of spam that strategy if literally nothing else works. But for now, we're just going to keep those sorts of strats for member picks if they specifically request it. And I'm just going to make my way to Chucky Boy's gym because I'm very interested to see how strong Aeroblast actually turns out to be there as a non-same type move, but it is a strong flying type move. But at the same time, it only has 5 PP, so it's not like it's a move that you can just spam infinitely. So who knows? We may end up still having to go for some sort of Toxic strat against Chucky Boy. That may be the only way through. Still, I think experience tells us that Chuck will be easier than Jasmine, so let's just go ahead and take him on since we're only going to be neutrally affected here. And then we can fly back and take on the final gym leader, who I think is going to be a lot easier due to Earthquake, but she's not necessarily going to be a guaranteed win. We'll have to see how much damage we actually do against the Steelix. For now, though, we've got to fight these Black Belt bros where we just go Aeroblast here. Double Kick did decent damage, but Aeroblast one-shots. Granted, the Hitmons don't have great physical defense. They're more special defenders in this generation, so we kind of expect them to go down in a single hit. But now we have to see how this does against the rest of the randos here. And without too much difficulty, we do manage to make it to Chucky Boy. I actually took out this last trainer just with Earthquake so that I'll have all of the Aeroblasts after going to heal. And let's see if this is enough to get through. So Chuck attempt number 1 here. He leads off with the Primeape. We go Aeroblast, and this gets an easy one-hit KO on that Pokemon. Poliwrath comes out next. We are slower, but it misses the Hypnosis. We hit the Aeroblast, nearly taking it down in a single hit. It goes Surf after that, but that's not nearly enough. And just like that, Flashliger and his RolyPoly have completely destroyed Chucky Boy. But the real test is still to come. We spent an awful lot of time last time trying to get through Jasmine, but this one might turn out to be easy. We'll just have to see. I'm still kind of nervous going in just because it's really a question of how much damage we do against that Steelix. She obviously gets a heal in the middle of the fight, and if we run out of PP in Earthquake, which we have 10 PP available, but if we were to run out of PP in the middle of the fight, it's not like we would be doing much with Aeroblast, and we can't go Toxic strats here. So we could end up in bad shape if we're not dealing enough damage. But Earthquake is about as strong as it gets, so it should theoretically get us through. Let's find out if that's actually the case. So Jasmine attempt number 1, she leads off with the Magnemite. We go Earthquake, and that's a guaranteed one-hit KO with 4 times super effectiveness. Steelix comes out next. Let's see what we do with Earthquake. We did 34 damage, taking it down to 69 HP. Very, very nice. That still means that this is looking like a 4-hit KO, maybe a 3-hit KO if we get the right ranges. We get a pretty good range that time, so I believe she's gonna have to heal. She doesn't even go for the heal here, letting us knock her out. That brings out the final Magnemite that just gets destroyed. So it turns out Earthquake on this Pokemon in Gen 2 would have been pretty OP, and I think we need to do some runs with Pokemon that would have gotten Earthquake in the next generation but didn't get it in this one. That of course includes Pokemon like Venusaur, the Mankey line, both of the Hitmons, interestingly Chansey, but also Pinsir, Gyarados, Dragonite, Mewtwo, the Pineco line, Dunsparce, Gligar, of course, Snubbull and Granbull, Mantine for some reason, and of course Tyrogue and Hitmontop plus Blissey, since their other kind of evolutionary line Pokemon got the move. But it's kind of nuts how many Pokemon get access to Earthquake from the next generation. And in some of those cases, Earthquake proves to be a pretty OP move. One of those is clearly this Forretrss. But with that, I just want to give a massive thank you to both cheeseboywanna and Flashliger for supporting Forretrss in different ways, and both of you guys are in fact moving on in this challenge. But with that, we're ready to move on to the next of the member picks. It's time for Genwunner and his Shuckle, AhShucks. We have given this Pokemon access to Rollout at the start of the game, which allowed it to get to this point, and the rest of its moves are kind of trash. We're running with Draw, Safeguard, and Bite. I think this is the only Pokemon for which Bite is actually a kind of good strategy, but it doesn't have great HP is the problem. So it's not like you're returning a ton of damage. Still, Rollout is a same type move here, but we may need something like Dig or Mud Slap in order to get through this section. We'll just kind of have to see how it goes. We just don't have great stats other than our defenses, so this is going to be tough, I think, no matter how we do it. So I figure before anything else, let's just take on everything that doesn't have a resistance to Rollout, starting with the Rocket Hideout Pokemon, because as long as we can get through there and gain some more levels, we should have pretty decent odds of getting through everything else. And I think Pryce is going to be the easiest gym leader, since we can just use Rollout there pretty effectively. I am very nervous about Jasmine in this one because we're not really going to have any strong moves there, so we may be going accuracy strats plus Dig or something like that. We'll just have to see, but we may need tons of withdrawals there in order to actually get through. Still, we have the greatest defensive stats in the game, so if any Pokemon's going to be able to get through with only Rollout, it's probably this Pokemon. We'll just have to see how it actually goes. But it turns out that we have trouble here on Jed in the Rocket Hideout because his Pokemon know the move Sonic Boom. So basically what they seem to do is they just use Thundershock over and over again until they get us down below 20 HP. But at that point, they're just going to go Sonic Boom on the basis that that move will simply one-shot us. So the AI seems to be smart enough to know that it will score the one-hit KO, and in that situation, it will simply go for it. So we need a move that can actually knock out these Magnemites more efficiently. That's why I'm going to now forget the move Bide in order to actually learn something that's decently effective effective here. And honestly, Mud Slap strats may be the way to go here. Yes, it's going to be kind of cheesy, but this Pokemon with its massive defenses can probably manage to get through a lot of things if it just manages to set up a bunch of Mud Slaps and then roll out, or Mud Slap into withdraw and then roll out. We'll just kind of have to see. So let's see what that does for us now that we've got the Mud Slap on here. We are going to 3-hit KO here, but we don't have to rely as much on the luck with that rollout, which kept missing and otherwise kind of messing up my strategy. Plus, we're lowering their accuracy every single turn, and after we level it to level 30, it looks like these are just 2-hit KOs now. It still might not be perfectly consistent, but we do manage to get through at that point. And with that done, we can now make our way further down into the Rocket Hideout, where I think that rollout's mostly going to do the job from here, but let's just confirm that that's the case. But here we make it to the final executive with no further issues. Rollout just did the job everywhere else. Let's see how we do in this fight even without healing. I'm just going to start by setting up the rollout on the Arbok. It goes Bite, which I think is meant to try to flinch me here, but Wrap is also kind of an issue because it does fixed amounts of damage based on your total HP. So we actually go down there. We're going to need to properly heal to come into this fight. I thought I could just stunt on the final Rocket Executive, but it turns out Genwunner, we're just not quite strong enough here. Still, let's try this one again, and we just keep getting that rollout miss. It's a 10% chance, but it seems like every single battle I'm getting misses with this Pokemon. So we end up not getting KOs where otherwise we would. But here we do finally manage to build up only to miss on the final Murkrow. Its Peck is doing pretty decent damage, but we get a 2-hitter once we actually manage the hits there. And we managed to get through on the first attempt that we properly healed going into that fight. So it's really not that bad. Most of these resets that we have on right now came against Jed, trying to find ways through with rollout strats. Turns out that that is not really a good strategy, but yeah, we can at least get to this point just fine. But now with that done, we're ready to make our way out to Pryce, where I think the fact that we have the rollout is going to be pretty strong here. Plus the fact that we have these massive defensive stats, I think we're going to take these Pokemon down. Even if they start resting, it shouldn't be a big deal. But let's see if that's actually the case, or do I run into a wall? Of course, Pryce leads off with his Seal. I'm just going to go for the rollout here. We kind of wish we had Defense Curl rather than Withdraw, but we still do pretty significant damage here. It takes 4 hits to knock out the Seal, though. Our move is fully built up when we get to Piloswine, allowing us to one-shot that Pokemon, and that brings out the final Dugong. It goes Aurora Beam here, but we're going for the rollout. And if we can build it up, it looks like it's going to be a 3-hitter. Sure enough, it is. So we get through on the first attempt against Pryce, getting the level 33, and we can now move on in the game. And here I will simply pick up the Sludge Bomb TM since it is a learnable move. Who knows, it could be useful at some point for this Pokemon. But after that, I'm honestly thinking we might be better off to at least try Jasmine here on the basis that we might just be able to set up all of the withdraws and then go for all of the Mud Slaps. And if we can get the accuracy of the Steelix down enough, we may just be able to win. Our big problem, of course, is that we're not very fast, so we're probably relying on some luck to get some misses from the Thunder Wave. No matter what we do, we're probably just going to be in that situation. Quick Claw might help us there, but we're probably better off just going with the Paralyzed Cure Berry and then hoping that we can manage to get the luck. That's my logic anyway. Still, we'll test this whole thing out. First things first, we've got to get that secret potion. Now, my logic for going there first is because if we can manage to get through this fight, we might even just end up forgetting the move Mud Slap in order to learn something a little bit stronger in the next gym against Chuck. Since he does have neutrally effective damage against our Shuckle, we might need to go for something that's slightly stronger there. Still, we'll have to see if Jasmine is even possible at this point, or does she turn out to be completely terrible as well. So Jasmine, attempt number 1. I'm going to lead off with the Safeguard here, and I should have put on the Paralyzed Cure Berry. Just a second. Let's make sure that we actually get the item on that we need. With the Paralyzed Cure Berry on, I think we can go for Safeguard here, and that might be all that we actually need. This time we Safeguard. Now we'll go into the Mud Slap. Sonic Boom does pretty decent damage, but fortunately it's not super accurate, and once we start hitting a bunch of Mud Slaps, we do manage to avoid most of them. Boom. That brings out Steelix second, and the Iron Tail just one-shots me from about 31 HP. Turns out that even with massive defenses, it's just not enough in that situation, and Sonic Boom is kind of the perfect move to use against this Shuckle. Now, of course, we could even go for Dig strats here if we feel that we absolutely need it. Since that move is 3 times stronger than our Mud Slap is, it might be enough to get the one-shot on this first Magnemite. Of course, it might also end up being a range. We'll just have to see. The problem remains, though, the Steelix. We technically would need to do something like setting up a bunch of withdraws here against the Magnemite in order to get the luck to actually get through here. With Magnemite on low health, I'm at least going to try to set up withdraw here, but honestly, on low health like that, we're probably just not getting through because of the fact that we're effectively a 4-hit KO from Sonic Boom. Of course, if we had some sort of healing here, that would help a lot in this fight, but we're simply not getting that sort of situation, and it just seems like we're probably not getting through the Steelix with anything less than some defense buffs here at least. And all the defense in the world doesn't really matter if you're not being able to have HP when you get to the second Pokemon, and that might be the actual issue. We might just be at too low of a level at this point to actually make this work, and this could be a Pokemon that we end up having to go for something like Earthquake on again in order to actually get it to get through this part of the game. Obviously, Earthquake would just one-shot there against the Magnemites, so then the question is just whether or not we could manage to set up enough defense buffs to get through the Steelix. For now, though, I'm going to at least test out how we do against the Fighting Gym. Let's just see how we go here, since we are only neutrally affected by Fighting-type moves. So here against the Hitmonlee, I'm even going to use Mud Slap in order to raise the chances that it crashes and takes damage that way. After we get its accuracy down a fair bit, now I will go into the rollouts, and we do knock that first Pokemon out. That brings out the Hitmonchan that doesn't really have anything strong against us. So here I think we can just go straight for the rollout strats, hoping that it actually hits. Like, yes, Fire Punch is kind of strong here, but the real issue is that we get burned, and we just miss so many rollouts that we never build up, so we lose that first attempt. Still, I think this is a winnable fight, so I'm just going to reset a few times here. So let's try round 2 against Hitmonchan here. This time I'm going to go for a bunch of Mud Slaps again, mostly just because I want to avoid getting burned if possible. And this time we build up the rollout and we do knock that Pokemon out. So that's significantly easier there. We might actually have more issues on the next trainer because he has Seismic Toss on his Machop and on his Machoke. And those moves could actually deal decent damage here. We'll just have to see. And sure enough, Seismic Toss is more than enough to simply knock me out. So I think we have to go for the Mud Slap strats here again, hoping to get some misses. Still, we managed to get through within a couple of attempts, so we can at least move on to the last of the randos. And we're just going to have to see if the rollout strats plus Mud Slap remains enough here, or do we hit a wall at some point. Ultimately, we do make it to Chucky Boy himself, and it's time to see if this can actually work out or not with this Shuckle. So first attempt here, I'm going to go for some Mud Slaps first on the Primeape, just hoping to lower its accuracy a bit. And then we will go into the rollout, hoping we can build it up a bunch and maybe get to a point where we actually can knock this Pokemon out. It's just going Rage against us. It's getting a bunch of misses, which is nice. And we get to the Poliwrath with still 69 HP remaining. It goes for the Mind Reader and then Hypnosis. So it does manage to actually deal some damage here. Goes Dynamic Punch after that, dealing pretty significant damage. And unfortunately, we are not able to stay awake here. We just keep getting put to sleep. So we're probably losing this one. Sure enough, we get knocked out. So the Mint Berry seems like it's going to be a required item here. Let's go ahead and give that to our Shuckle and try this one again. So again, against the Primeape, I think the best play is to spam a bunch of Mud Slaps here, just hoping to lower its accuracy as much as possible. And since we saw that we were getting some dynamic punches, it could even be worthwhile to set up some withdraw here just to reduce the amount of damage we take if we do get hit by that move. And with everything set up, we will now go into the rollouts. and knock out that Primeape. That brings out the Poliwrath. It goes Surf here because of the fact that we've set up so many defense buffs. And the 4th and 5th hits of our rollout do take it to very low health. Now it goes for Hypnosis, but fortunately we get a Wake Up thanks to the Mint Berry, and I'm just going to spam Mud Slap here to knock this Pokemon out. And just like that, we managed to get through Chucky Boy on the next attempt. So we get to level 35 right there as we beat him, and we have at least completed 6 gyms with this Pokemon, but now we have to see if we can get the 7th or not. Are we going to have to go Earthquake strats here? Are we even going to be able to survive enough turns to make this one reasonable? I'm honestly not sure, but we have no choice. Jasmine's the only trainer left. Now, it is worth noting that we're 2 levels away from Rest, so if we dropped 2 rare candies, we could get that move. It's also a TM move that would be available in the ice path, but we have to beat Jasmine first before we can get there. Still, this could be a Pokemon for which dropping the 2 rare candies is actually a very logical play, but I'm going to try without it. Let's see if we can get through. First trying Mud Slap strats, then we may try the Dig strats and just see if anything works for us here. So first things first, we're going Mud Slap on this first Magnemite, and this should be a pure 3-hit KO at this point, though it probably depends a little bit on luck here. And we really do want to set up all the withdraws if we can, since we know that that Steelix is upcoming, and we know that it's going to deal massive damage to us. Of course, we're still 4-hit KO'd by the move Sonic Boom here. But that's actually one of the reasons why we might be better off if we go all in on the rare candies to get to Rest, because in theory, after we lower the accuracy of this first Magnemite, we'll just be able to set up Rest in order to heal and then set up our withdraws, and we can just kind of flip between those 2 strategies to get through. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick up 1 more rare candy here, and I'm just going to slam 2 rare candies into this Pokemon to see if that might actually turn out to be enough. So here at level 37, we do get access to Rest. I'm actually going to learn this over Safeguard, since Rest will allow us to recover status anyway. I think this is the way to go, but again, tell me if you think this is a mistake. But my strategy in mind is to use Withdraw to boost my defense, use Mud Slap to lower the opponent's accuracy, and then use Rollout to try to knock things out. Let's see if this can actually work though, or is it going to be an absolute nightmare? So Jasmine, next attempt here, we're going to lead off with a couple of Mud Slaps on this first Magnemite, just hoping to lower its accuracy. Once we get its accuracy down, now I'm going to start going into my withdraws first, but any case where it has me on low health, I will of course Rest in order to recover HP. We actually get to use the Mint Berry to instantly wake up on the first one, and we're just going for +6 in defense here, and then we will Rest, and what we're hoping is to get a situation where we just get a miss from the Magnemite enough times that we can then knock it out with the Mud Slap still on full health. That brings out the Steelix next. It goes Iron Tail, which still does pretty decent damage, 14 damage in spite of our massive 672 defense stat. Are you kidding me? But our strategy is pretty simple. We are going to Mud Slap a bunch of times on this Pokemon, basically just hoping to lower its accuracy enough that we can then go into maybe 1 more withdraw here in order to just get back to max defense, since it did get a defense drop on us. And we're just trying to get our defense as high as possible before we go into the Rollout strat here. Obviously, if Rollout misses, we'll simply heal at that point using Rest. And since Steelix has its accuracy all the way down, it's going to end up running out of Iron Tails. And at that point, we just need to hope that we can deal enough damage with some Rollouts, since it's not going to do that much damage with everything else. Still, this is like the ultimate war of attrition here, especially since we know that she has that Hyper Potion, but eventually she runs out of all of her damage dealing PP, but she has tons of PP in Screech, which does nothing because the next Pokemon does not use any physical moves. So it's just a battle to see who's going to use up all of their PP first. And here Rollout is slowly but surely whittling this opponent down. We do finally get through the Steelix here. As we get to the Magnemite, we're just going for Rollout here. I technically have 1 Mud Slap left, which we should probably use to lower its accuracy. We should also go for Rest here in order to recover HP. And we're just hoping to get enough misses here that we can then roll out to knock this Pokemon out. Sonic Boom is dealing massive damage. and one more Sonic Boom will end us, but we managed to get the victory right there. So the rest strats on Shuckle, they turned out to be enough, and it's clearly one of the best strategies with this Pokemon. It's got the potential to be completely broken if we can manage to set up our defenses, plus use rest in order to recover HP and use rollout strats. I think we're going to have chances to get pretty far in this one. We'll just see if that actually works out. But for now, Genwunner, thank you very much for your continued support of the channel. Already 14 months of supporting here. I cannot thank you enough for that. But with that, we have made it to the final bug Pokemon, Redeemed Steve, coming in with his UrDoneSon, who was one of the original channel member picks over here. And our Heracross is coming in knowing Fury Cutter, Hidden Power, Flail, and Rock Smash. Now, we will also get access to Counter in this section of the game, but because we're in the slow level up group, we are going to be a little bit under leveled as we go through this. We're just going to have to see how this whole section goes. I'm going to start by going to beat up on all the rockets, though. We'll probably forget the move Hidden Power pretty quickly here. I mean, something like Headbutt is going to be significantly better on this Pokemon, but we'll worry about that if we actually run into that situation. For now, we actually have to get access to a water-type Pokemon to teach the move Surf to. In some of these runs, I didn't remember to catch myself a Sentret back at the start of the game. That is my general strategy for an HM Pokemon, is to catch Sentret because it learned so many field moves. But in the cases where I forgot that, I ended up catching like a Paris or an Oddish in order to use Cut, and I end up having to come down here to Olivine to get myself the good rod so that I can actually catch a Pokemon that is capable of using Surf outside of battle. So it's definitely a little bit of an inefficiency in these runs, but hey, there's not much that we can do. Still, in this case, since we are all the way down here already, we may as well at least try our hand at Chucky Boy's gym, given the fact that he will at least not be doing that much damage to us, I don't think, given that we are a bug type. And as long as we use the right moves, we should be able to get through just fine. So really, I think this just comes down to whether or not we need to throw on something like Headbutt over Hidden Power to get through here. It could honestly be a pretty good strat in this section of the game, but let's see if that's necessary or not. So first up here against the Black Belt Bros, I'm actually just going to use Rock Smash here. It doesn't do that much, but we get a defense drop on the Hitmonlee, and that makes this look like it's just going to be a 3-hit KO. Sure enough, it is. So we get through the first trainer at least. Let's see how we do against the Hitmonchan now, where the lower we get on health, the more we can just decide to switch into Flail to deal significant damage. So we managed to get through both of those trainers without any real issues. The question is, can Flail just get us through everything else, or do we need to change to something else here? I'm going to test it out a little bit with my moveset as it is, just because I'm kind of interested to see, especially when we get on low health like this, maybe Flail turns out to be enough. It turns out to at least be enough to get us to the end of this section, and we can even learn Counter here. I'm going to learn Counter over Hidden Power. And now the question is Flail strong enough at this point that we can just get through Chucky Boy, or are we going to need to go heal before this battle? Let's just test it out and see if Flail is enough. So Chuck attempt number 1 here. I go for the Flail and do not get the 1-hitter on the Primeape, but we get the 2-hitter there, so we knock that Pokemon out. Out next comes the Poliwrath. We deal pretty significant damage, but then it just knocks me out with a Surf. It was going to take at least 3 Flails there in order to knock that Pokemon out, so I think we have to go heal. And let's try the counter strats instead there, since they do at least give us a way of knocking these Pokemon out. So back to Chucky Boy again. We know that the Primeape only knows physical damage dealing moves. It goes Karate Chop, and we're just going to counter that, and that just takes a couple of counters, it looks like, to knock that Pokemon out. Unfortunately, we actually get some kind of bad luck there, it seems like. Still, that brings us to the Poliwrath. I'm gonna Rock Smash turn 1, and if we can manage to get this Pokemon to have lower defense, we might have even better chances here. He goes for the Hypnosis there, but we do wake up with the Mint Berry, and then we can simply knock him out after that with Flail, so we get through on the second attempt. And with Chucky Boy done, that technically powers up our fighting type moves, and it gives us access to the Fly HM so we can get back through this section of the game. Unfortunately, we don't learn Dynamic Punch with this Pokemon. Otherwise, I'd think we'd be kind of strong with our fighting type, same type attack bonus. Now, I have to assume that it's just because of the fact that the Heracross has kind of dinky arms that it doesn't learn Dynamic Punch, but then again, Abra does learn that move, and it's got dinkier arms than basically any Pokemon. So honestly, that just makes no sense to me. Why doesn't this Pokemon learn Dynamic Punch? Somebody please make it make sense. Anyway, with that, let's go try our hand at Jasmine at least, because if we can find our way through the 2 Magnemites, we may just be able to use counter strats to defeat the Steelix, and that might be all that we actually need. So I'm just going to give the Paralyzed Cure Berry and test this one out. First up on the Magnemite, I'm going to go for Rock Smash here. It does nearly half. We get a nice miss from the first of the Thunder Waves, and we get the 2-hit KO, so we get through that Pokemon just fine. Now we're faster than Steelix. I'm going to go Rock Smash first here. It goes for Iron Tail, and that did massive damage. We might be able to counter the Iron Tail and get the KO. Let's test this out just a little bit. So next attempt, we don't get the 2-hit KO here with the Rock Smash, and I think if that happens, we just have to reset here. Still, let's just try this one again because it looks like it's a range on the Magnemite. We get the range the next attempt, and back to the Steelix. It goes for the Iron Tail, but we go for counter, getting the 1-hit KO. That brings out the final Magnemite. We go for Rock Smash here. It misses the Thunder Wave, and we get the victory. So even without going to the Rocket Hideout, it is possible to beat Jasmine there thanks to the counter strats. That also gives us a badge boost in defense. And now I think we're going to have no issues as we go over to Pryce here in the Rocket Hideout. But let's just beat up on the Rockets and hopefully get to the end with no issues. If that is the case, then we'll go and take on Pryce, who has a type weakness against fighting. So we should be pretty good in this section, but let's see if Redeemed Steve is as powerful as we expect him to be here. But it did turn out that we had a reset down here to this first rocket after you get the free heal from Lance. And it came down to the fact that I just kept missing and I got confused. So basically what I'm trying to do here is to set up the Fury Cutter, and then we're hoping not to hit ourselves in confusion too much. We are, of course, weak to confusion here. Once we get on lower health, we should switch into Flail, but the problem was I just kept hitting myself in confusion on that last one, resulting in me actually losing that fight. Still, here, once we get Flail kind of powered up, it might be enough to just sweep through a lot of these Pokemon, so let's just test that out. And sure enough, we're able to make it to the final Rocket Executive just by spamming Flail the rest of the way. Let's see if it's enough to get through this team. Of course, she leads off with the Arbok. I'm just going Flail here since I'm below half health. We nearly got the 1-hit KO on Arbok just like that. We knock it out in 2. That brings out the Murkrow, which doesn't have enough defense, so it goes down in a single hit. And the Gloom gets almost completely wrecked. It just barely survived, but we knocked it out in 2 hits again. Sure, it can drop acid, but it's only neutrally effective here, so we didn't really have to worry that much. And with the whole Rocket Hideout done, we can now make our way to Pryce, where I think the Rock Smash will probably be enough. But let's see if that's actually the case or not here. If it isn't, we can always think about something like Headbutt, just on the basis that we can get flinches there. But that's really kind of it. So first attempt here against the Seal. On this Pokemon, we might actually be best off trying to set up Fury Cutter since it's neutrally effective and we don't have any super effective moves. We managed to build up enough and knock that Pokemon out, getting the level 31. I'll just try Fury Cutter on the Dugong. It's not a 1-hitter, but it is a 2-hitter. That brings us to the final Piloswine, where we get the 1-hit KO. So Fury Cutter remains just kind of OP. As long as you can build it up and not get misses, you're perfectly fine to get through there. And Heracross really has no issues. I mean, once it got access to Flail and was able to get through Falkner, it's managed to get through the rest of the game pretty well. Obviously, it struggled a little bit on Morty back there, but with Morty out of the way, this section really wasn't that hard. So Redeemed Steve also already up to 14 months as a channel member. Cannot thank you enough for your continued support, dude. And let's keep running this Heracross through to the end of the game. I think this Pokemon might have a legit shot of getting through Evolve of Johto. And then who knows, maybe it can actually do some pretty serious damage in Kanto as well. We'll just have to see. I would really love to see Mega Horn later on. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. Though we have to get all the way to level 54 before we get to see that move. Still, if we get there, I think it's going to be pretty OP. So with that done, I just want to give a massive thank you to all of the channel members for their support. If you'd like to support your own Pokemon, consider joining that channel membership. You can see a few Pokemon that have failed so far in this series. And if we go back to, say, the Falkner section, you can really see some failed Pokemon, some of which I reckon could be pretty interesting if we manage to give them some better moves. And in the Bugsy and Rival 2 section, there were actually some evolved Pokemon that failed, of course, including Electrode, Magcargo, and Blossom, as well as, if you're a Madrybred fan, Drowsy. It's still out there as a available member pick. Now, one thing to note is that I'm working on revamping the website where you make member picks, but you can check out all of the Pokemon that are available over there. Plus, I have a few other little features that are in the works right now. I'll update you guys once they're actually ready to go. But for now, if you'd like to join up and make a member pick, consider doing so. It really helps the channel. But with that done, we're down to the last two Pokemon of today. We have Snubbull and Granbull. Let's get Granbull going here and see how it goes. I think these last two are going to be pretty simple to get through, but who knows? Maybe Chuck has something to say about that. We'll just have to see. Now, Granbull comes in with Bite, Fire Punch, Tackle, and Scary Face. I think that Fire Punch is going to be very important for the Jasmine fight. In fact, we might be best off going to Jasmine as soon as possible here. And Tackle might need an upgrade just to deal more damage. Of course, there are plenty of moves available to us. I think Headbutt is probably the best decision if Tackle proves to not be enough at some point, but I'm just going to go and get all the levels that I can against randos first here, since I think that's the smoothest way to progress, and we'll just keep all of our options open with this Pokemon. It also looks like we might not have gone down to the Lighthouse yet, so we may be able to gain even more levels before we actually have any serious challenges on our hands. Still, if I can get through the Rocket Hideout, I'm going to go to the Pryce fight first, since I think it's going to be fairly straightforward, especially with the Fire Punch on the moveset. Let's just see if that's enough. Of course, Granbull makes its way through the Rocket Hideout really easily. It's kind of laughable how much damage we actually do with Tackle with the same type attack bonus with this Pokemon, plus that massive 104 attack stat at this point. So I think Tackle's enough at this point in the game at least. On the Arbok, we can see Tackle is going to be a 2-hit KO, getting a pretty easy victory there. Gloom comes out next. We can switch to Fire Punch here. It's going to be a 2-hitter with that move, even though it's super effective. That brings out the Murkrow, where we can go for the Tackle, and it's once again just a 2-hit KO with that move to get through that Pokemon. Tackle's putting in some pretty decent work, so we can avoid the Headbutt for now. Headbutt's probably required at some point, I would have to guess, but it's not strictly necessary at this point in the game. And with this whole section cleared out, we're now ready to make our way to Pryce, and let's just see if we get a nice easy victory here with the Fire Punch strats. So Tackle may be our main damage dealing move here. So Pryce attempt number 1 against the first Seal. I'm just going to go Tackle, and this looks like a 2-hit KO. We get the speed drop, which is kind of bad. Here, I'm using Scary Face to lower the speed of the Dugong so that we can outspeed it after that. Aurora Beam is doing pretty decent damage, and it looks like Tackle's going to be a 4-hit KO. We even get an attack drop there, so that did not work out. Still, we have the completely obvious strategy of just adding on Headbutt instead, which will throw on over Tackle, and that should give us a significant power spike. Let's see how this goes now. So here we just Headbutt and one-shot against the Seal, and that brings us once again to the Dugong. We are faster than this Pokemon, so we can just Headbutt, and this is going to be a 2-hitter. We even get the flinch. That brings out the Piloswine. It has lower special defense than defense, though our special attack is also a significantly lower stat. I'm not sure if Headbutt or Fire Punch is better here. I'll try Fire Punch, and we get a nice critical hit. Then it goes missed. I'll go Headbutt here just to see what it does after the heal, and it looks like Headbutt's doing slightly more, getting us the 2-hit KO there, so we get through Pryce. No issues whatsoever, not even taking any damage once we add on the Headbutt. And that's just such a standard move to make with a normal type Pokemon like this, that sure enough, if you just go with the most obvious strategy of throwing on Headbutt as soon as you get it, you're going to get pretty far in the game with this Pokemon, it seems. But now we have to see if Fire Punch is going to be enough for Jasmine. Is Headbutt going to be enough for Chuck? I think we'll be able to get through the first two randos in the gym. The only problem is that we're kind of slow. Still, we get to take on all of these randos in the lighthouse on our way down there, which we did not fight before, so we will gain maybe 1 or 2 extra levels here before we actually have to go down to Chucky Boy's gym. And of course, if we run into huge amounts of trouble, we can always go for return, especially if we max out our friendship. That will boost our damage output even more significantly. So there's plenty of strategies available to this Pokemon here. It's just a question of how far we actually need to go. So let's get into Chuck's gym and just see how this goes with headbutt strats here. Against the Hitmonlee, we are in a speed tie. Jump kick does massive damage with a crit, but then we one-shot with the headbutt. Now we have to see how we do against Hitmonchan. This Pokemon has lower speed, so we can headbutt here, getting the one-hitter. So we get through the Black Belt Bros just fine, even after a critical hit jump kick. And that makes me feel like we can probably get through the rest of this, but let's just see if that's actually the case or not. All of the other randos here are just one-hit KOs with the headbutt, so we're able to get to Chucky Boy, where now it's time to see if we can manage to get the luck that we need to get through this one. I'll throw on the Mint Berry just to be safe, though I'm not sure if he'll actually try to put me to sleep or just go for Dynamic Punch. It seems like the AI generally goes for a move that will KO you, even if that move ends up missing, and that may be all that we actually get from Chuck here, but let's see if that's the case or not. First up, we've got the Primeape, and it is faster than me. It goes Leer turn 1, but we headbutt in one shot there, so that's perfectly fine. Poliwrath is slower, so we can go headbutt here. It's going to be a 2-hitter, but it misses the Hypnosis, and that just gives us the free victory against Chuck. He just has to punt, which I believe is what he's actually doing with that boulder. I'm pretty sure he doesn't actually throw it. He's actually punting that boulder to show just how good at punting he actually is in the toughest fights. But now with that done, we're ready to make our way back to Jasmine. And the real question here is just, are we going to be able to get through with the Fire Punch, or are we going to have to make some sort of moveset change? This is one case where, in spite of the fact that we have a significantly lower special attack stat, I still think Fire Punch is going to be the superior play on the Steelix at least. Something like Mud Slap might be better against the Magnemites since they have that 4 times weakness, but it might not end up mattering. We may just be able to get the one-hit KO on those Pokemon, and if we do, we should be pretty good to go here. But let's see if that's actually the case, or is it all just wishful thinking? So Jasmine attempt number 1, we go for the Fire Punch on the first Magnemite, and that is a one-hitter. We get to level 36 thanks to the fast level up group here, and then we can knock out the second Magnemite. Steelix is out last. We go for the Fire Punch. We do over half, and it misses the Iron Tail, so we take 0 damage there from Jasmine as we completely destroy her with our Granbull. And now it's just time to see if Snubbull can match up here. Snubbull, of course, has significantly lower stats, which might affect things. This could actually turn out to be much harder, but if we can get anything close to a similar range, I think we'll be just fine. And of course, Snubbull's basically carrying the same set, except it came in already knowing Headbutt. But I think we just go for the same strategy here of going to the Rocket Hideout first, then going down to Chucky Boy's gym to fight the randos, and then finally going back to take on Jasmine. Now, if there's one thing I'm worried about Snubbull about, is that I don't think we're going to be outspeeding in most of these fights. So we might have a significantly harder time just because we can't outspeed the opponents in front of us, allowing them to get extra hits on us, and of course stopping us from getting flinches. So Scary Face might be significantly more important as we go through this one. Still, we get through the whole Rocket Hideout with no issues. So let's just see how the last executive goes here. She, of course, leads off with that Arbok that's going to be faster than us, but we'll go Headbutt. We nearly get a one-hitter here. I'll just Fire Punch this one down from here to preserve some PP. We get to level 32 off of the level up there. We're faster than the Gloom, so we manage to flinch at least, even though this is a 2-hit KO, and that brings out the final Murkrow, which is faster than us, but we get a 1-hit KO with the Headbutt, so we get through that fight nice and easy, and now we can go try our hand at Pryce. And unlike Granbull, we're already coming in knowing Headbutt for Pryce, so the real question is just if the speed disadvantage is going to matter. Let's find out. Here, first up on the seal, we are faster than this Pokemon at least. We can go Headbutt. It's going to be a 2-hit KO, so we get Aurora Beamed, but we do take that one down. I'm going to go for Scary Face first on the Dugong, so that we can outspeed, hopefully being able to flinch after that. The Aurora Beam's doing a lot of damage, but we get one flinch. So we have 29 HP as we go to the final Piloswine. And after the level up to level 33, we actually have 32 HP. And now we are faster than the final Pokemon. I'm going to stick with Headbutt here, hoping for a flinch. We get one. Then it hits the Blizzard though, and we lose. Still, this is clearly a winnable fight. It's just a question of resets, I think. So let's try this one again. In all of these, I think we go Scary Face on the Dugong because we're really hoping for a run where we get 2 flinches in a row here. We don't get that this time, but once again, we are back to Piloswine. But Blizzard is just too much at this point, and we cannot survive. Still, Blizzard has that 30% chance to miss to go together with everything else. We do have the issue, though, that if we get our speed dropped by that first seal, we can be in kind of bad shape here. And this time we don't even get a flinch on the Dugong, so we simply go down there. So it's not like we're even necessarily getting to the final Piloswine every time. Still, we get back this time. This is the best HP we've ever had here at 42. We get a Blizzard miss, then a Blizzard hit, though, and that yet again is the end of us. So this fight's at least turning out to be significantly less consistent than what we were dealing with before, and we're probably going to take quite a few resets to get through this one. That almost makes me think that we'd be better off going down and trying our hand at least at Chucky Boy's gym, since in theory we could maybe knock out the first couple Pokemon and get through, but I'm not sure if we'll survive against that Hitmonlee. So that's why I'm sitting here resetting. This time we get a couple of Blizzard misses. We get the Hyper Potion heal, and then he gets flinched. So we finally managed to win. It took 6 attempts to get through Pryce, though. That makes me really nervous going forward. We don't have great defensive stats with this Pokemon, so we might actually be in a lot more trouble in the other gyms. We're just going to have to see. For now, I will move on down to Chucky Boy's gym to fight the randos. Let's get access to that secret potion. We know if we could just slam a secret potion onto this Pokemon, all of our stats would go up by 999 points, guaranteeing that we would win. But unfortunately, that is not an option in this one. These are itemless battles. Still, before we deal with Jasmine, let's get into the fighting gym and just see how we do against this Hitmonlee. Of course, if we come in without healing and it jump kicks, we simply lose. Let's try with a heal to see if we can survive anything here, or do we just get completely wrecked? So here against the Hitmonlee, it goes double kick and nearly one-shots us. We do manage to get through, though. That brings us to the Hitmonchan, which is still faster, and we get ice punched. So I think the strategy here is to go for the Quick Claw, specifically hoping that it activates on the Hitmonlee. This could take a little while, though. It also turns out that Headbutt is not necessarily a one-hit KO here. It's a range, so we get some where we get that and some where we don't. Still, we managed to get to Hitmonchan again here. Fire Punch only did about 10 damage, but then Comet Punch takes me down. So we're really hoping for a Quick Claw here. We do manage to get to Hitmonchan again. Once again, Fire Punch, but we get a critical hit. And then once again, Comet Punch does the job to knock us out. This time we get the Quick Claw to activate, but then we get paralyzed by Thunder Punch. And again, Comet Punch takes us down. So we're just not getting a whole lot of luck here. This time we get a Thunder Punch, though, and we survive with 4 HP. Still, that took a bunch of attempts. It says attempt number 1, but that's just because I kept beating the first of the Black Belt Bros and then getting to the second one. So it's definitely not that consistent. Here we could learn Rage via level up, but I'm actually going to skip this move. I think we're better off just sticking with Headbutt. We'll get access to Return later on as well. I think that's going to be our way to actually get through some of these tough fights, because otherwise, yeah, I don't know what we're actually going to do here. We might be in bad shape. Now, fortunately, we do manage to get through all the randos here, so we're ready to take on Chucky Boy, but this one could prove to be really tough as well. We've got to hope that he misses with something like Hypnosis. We're still slower than the Poliwrath, so this one might actually be a problem. Let's test it out, though. He leads off with the Primeape. He goes Fury Swipes here, which isn't that bad. We get a critical hit one-shot with Headbutt. That brings out the Poliwrath second. It hits the Dynamic Punch and just one-shots me from full health. Still, that's a 50-50 shot, so we might still have a chance here. I'm going to try this one again. It turns out that it's a 2-hit KO on the Primeape when we do not manage to get that critical hit, and it landed a critical hit Karate Chop, taking us down to 18 HP. And this time we got the quick claw activation, but Scary Face failed and then Dynamic Punch took us down. Let's try this one a few more times though. We get a nice quick claw this time that flinches the first Primate, but then it critical hits with a Karate Chop, and we just keep getting hit by Dynamic Punch every single time by that Poliwrath. Clearly that is pretty bad luck. This time we do manage Scary Face and we get the Dynamic Punch miss vitally. And with the Scary Face, we are faster here, so we can start going for Headbutt with the hope for flinches. We did about 47 damage with that first Headbutt. Maybe this is a range for a 2-hitter. It looks like a 3-hitter, but we actually get the flinch this time. So 4 attempts to get through Chucky Boy there. It's not necessarily that bad for an unevolved Pokemon going up against a gym that it has a type weakness against. So I guess we'll take that, but it's not the prettiest fight in the world. Something like Return or even Strength to just deal a little bit more damage might be the way to go. So you would be wanting to go for a King's Rock or something like that there in order to actually get some flinch chances as well. Still, with that done, we're ready to make our way to Jasmine, where we just have even lower special attack than what we were dealing with the Granbull. So I'm not sure how we're going to do with the Fire Punch here, but it is the best play I think we can use against these Pokemon. So we're just going to have to see if it works out or not. So let's test it out here, starting with this Magnemite. I go Fire Punch, and that just barely misses getting the 1-hitter. It could be a range on that Pokemon though, so we'll just have to see. We managed to one-shot this second Magnemite, so that really makes me think that we probably just got a bad range. Here we get a bunch of Iron Tail misses and a Quick Claw activation. So we're dealing pretty decent damage with the Fire Punch, but it is a 3-hitter here, and it looks like we're getting 3-hit KO'd by Iron Tail. So we're going to have to hope for better luck than that. The Quick Claw's probably not required in this one, so let's give a different held item. And because that range was so close, I'm going to try Charcoal, just because we might end up being able to then guarantee a 1-hit KO on the Magnemites. That might be all that we actually need, but let's find out. So first Magnemite here, we'll go for Fire Punch again. This time getting the 1-hit KOs, we get to level 36. The second Magnemite gets wrecked as well, and Charcoal is boosting our damage output here, so we can go for the Fire Punch, and this looks like a 2-hitter now on the Steelix. Sure enough, we get the range. So Charcoal makes that nice little bit of difference there to make Snubbull go from being really, really bad in that fight to being perfectly fine. It just simply knocks her out. She wasn't going to one-shot me with an Iron Tail, and it's just that little bit of extra damage that's all that you need to actually get through there. So that's pretty nice to see that we managed to get through with Snubbull. It does have a very wide move pool, so in the next section, I mean, we can obviously go for things like Ice Punch if we need to against Claire, and then we'll just have to see if we can move on in the game further than that. But hey, Snubbull, it's still in the action. And with that being done, we're now up to 80 Pokemon, legitimately getting through this section. We still have 15 in that OPTMs or struggle column, and 4 Pokemon have failed. We're making excellent progress through this section of the game, and honestly, next time I don't think we're going to face that many challenges, but a few Pokemon are going to be kind of interesting. Next time we will be coming back with 12 challengers. We are going to have Jinx, Electabuzz, and Magmar, and of course Magby is still in the action as well. That means that we're definitely going to have to get that Elekid up there from the member picks involved. We have Tauros, Gyarados, Lapras, Sneasel, which could be kind of interesting given its type weaknesses. Shuck could be an issue, and it might not even get to Chuck. It might be that first black belt that actually takes us down there. We'll have to see. We do have Teddy Ursa and Ursaring, Piloswine, so we can role play as Pryce and see if we can manage to beat him. And we've got Miltank. Since we've got the Tauros, it just makes too much sense to get that Pokemon in. In addition, we will be adding on more member picks. I'll have to get that Heracross properly moved down into the completed members. Not sure why it didn't go there, but I'm going to be adding in quite a few Pokemon in the next one. We will be getting our Rhydon into the action. Let's get Chansey and Blissey into the action. And then finally, let's get that Delibird, since it's going to be basically Christmas time by the time the next episode airs, at least if everything goes to plan. We may need a present for everybody in that one. Now, speaking of presents, there is a special day coming up before Christmas. Here on December 20th, my time, it's probably going to be December 19th in the the evening your time, I will be doing a live stream, partially as an early Christmas celebration, partially as a birthday celebration, because I am also a December baby. I was in fact born 3 days before Christmas, but December 20th is the day that I can actually have time off work. My baby boy will be off at the nursery, so I can relax and do a fun live stream for you guys. It will be hosted on RBY Pokemon Challenges, but GSC Pokemon Challenges, trust me, I will be over there to stunt on Gen 1 a little bit and talk some trash. So if you'd like to join that, I will pin a comment or something down below as a reminder, and the actual link for that will get posted on the community, or you can go and follow that RBY Pokemon Challenges guy. Like, I don't know why you would, but you know, it's a necessary evil. It's one of the things that I've heard about the collaboration feature that some people really dislike, is the situation where it can cause a channel that you don't like to show up in your subscription feed. There was apparently some big drama with like people who don't like Mr. Beast having Mr. Beast show up in their subscription feed or something. I don't know. But here, please forgive me if RBY Pokemon Challenges shows up in your subscriptions, in spite of the fact that he is the worst PokeTuber on Earth. Probably just gonna have to deal with it for one live stream. Sorry, but not really sorry, because we're gonna go over there and completely destroy Kanto, and there's nothing that he can do about it. Anyway, that does it for this one. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you all for your support, and I hope you are having a lovely December with whatever holidays you enjoy celebrating. And let's just run this up to the end of the year. We have almost doubled the performance of the channel compared to last year, which is incredible, and I cannot thank you guys enough. It's one of the best presents ever to just post these videos and see so many great people consistently commenting and engaging as part of this community. It's really been a blast in 2025, and we're just going to keep running it up in 2026 with even more, so stay tuned. Anyway, that's all I've got. I'm rambling at this point. I'll see you in the next one. Later.